I think we can kick this off. All right. Well, I'm going to call this meeting of the Mount Airy Planning Commission, November 13th, to order. Let's get started by standing and doing our pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And we don't have any minutes to approve, so we can go right to citizen comments for anything that's not on the agenda. Do you have anything? One of the advantages of it being a snowy evening. Then let's jump down to number 4. Sign permit and site plan submissions. First one is Johnson Used Appliance and Repair.
Okay, we have a new business in town, and I'm gonna dim the lights.
So is this where Rick's Chop Shop
It
used to
is.
be?
Is the Castle's on, Mr. McKenna?
Yes.
Hi, Heather Smith. Have a seat. You're up after.
Rick's Chop Shop didn't make it.
So we have a new business in town, and they are looking for signage. They are not requesting any wall-mounted signage, and the photo rendering on your left is their store frontage. But what they do wish to do is utilize the existing freestanding sign, if you will, that is actually in front of the center, and you can see the rendering. And I think I turned off the wrong lights. Because it's really no different. So let me go play with that.
You'll wash it out.
Yeah, just,
Yeah, it's,
sorry about that, guys. We need those. Oh, that's perfect.
whoa.
There we
There we go.
go.
That's good.
Let's just, yeah.
Oh, that's fine. It works.
We need to label those. So what we have here is that the height of the existing sign is 10 feet. That won't be changed. The proposed sign is, there will be 2 signs, but they're actually going to be placed in different places on the sign. So can you move forward once? So on the left, the sign will be placed above Rick's Chop Shop in the void. And then for the picture on the right, it'll utilize that, actually no, it'll go below. So that's what they have proposed.
Explain that again.
So they're going to be sharing the
Right.
existing signage space with the dentist.
Right, so on the left, Jennifer wants me to explain it again. So on the left, the proposed sign will fill that void above Rick's Chop Shop. But then on the right, they're gonna utilize and put like the board, which is the 2 feet in height by 3.5 feet wide below it.
Okay.
So it's not the most optimal sign configuration, but they're using what's there within the existing height. So,
Right, and it's minimal cost.
Yeah.
right,
Which is,
right.
Right, great.
it's a very,
And,
yeah,
right,
it's a
there's no
preliminary
lighting
design
to
for
the
the safety
sign.
issue.
And they're, and it's a basic black and white sign. It matches, primarily like Rick's Chop Shop without the barber pole. But it's it just says their name. Is there a picture of that, Lisa? No, let's go
Yeah.
back a little bit.
You had,
It's in your packages,
you
I
had a very
apologize.
basic layout.
Right,
Yeah, it's just
and that's what
because
it is. It's
So
point
that's
to.
what this is up on the top of the sign.
Yeah. It's in place of Rick's Chop Shop, there'll be this.
No,
No.
it
Above,
sounds like it's gonna be right above it.
No,
So Rick's
there's
Chop
2
Shop is still
sides
gonna
to the
be there.
sign. Go forward, Lisa.
But is it Rick's going away?
There we go. Okay, so these are the 2 sides of the sign. Okay? this is
The
along,
sign is going up there.
right, so on the side as you're going east on Prospect, it will be above, but then as you're going west on Prospect, it'll be below. And it's just basically because the Dr. Manzer sign isn't two-sided. So, I mean, if the planning commission would prefer just to have, you know, them both, I think they're just trying to utilize
Yeah.
the top portion.
That's fine.
Right.
So that's what they desire.
Now this says see back, is there supposed to be something else?
No, it was one of the photos that were provided for the application.
Oh,
So-
okay.
Yeah.
So the total permitted square footage versus what they're proposing to use is,
Now, what we do with the freestanding signs is different than what we do with wall-mounted signs, remember. So for freestanding signage, they're allowed up to 50 square feet of signage per road frontage. And they, with all the signage included, with the proposed signage, it comes to 19.4 square feet. So they're well under that. And in the future, you know, staff would love to work with the property owner and apply for some facade grants and, you know, help them with some signage. But for right now, our main goal is to allow this new business some identification.
okay. All right, anyone have any questions for staff? Then I would move approval of the sign permit application for Johnson's Used Appliance Repair and Sales with design and building materials proposed. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, seconded by Patty. All those in favor, let me know by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, like sign? And it passes. Do we have anyone here from this business?
I don't see them. They're probably busy manning the store. But if you're in the neighborhood, go down and introduce yourselves. Melissa and Annalise went down there to get some sign measurements, and they said it was really nice.
Or call them for a repair.
Yeah.
That's right. Or buy a used appliance. Even better.
That's a smart little business.
Yeah.
Be launching. Okay, this was interesting.
Don't be nervous. First, I'd like to introduce Mr. Michael McKenna. You probably saw his name back and forth in some email exchanges. And we've been working with Wyker Realtors. We are excited to have a new business in our downtown. And they are our next door neighbors, basically. And as you can see, they want to install a banner mounted style sign between the two windows right above the hive. It is a non-illuminated banner sign, and it closely matches the dimensions of the do or die sign. And it's roughly 8.5 feet high by 2 feet wide. And I was shocked to learn that those banners are that tall, because it is deceiving. So it's going to match closely, yes.
I don't think it's that large.
No, because,
The dimensions I have are 24 inches by 60 inches.
oh, see, we have 102 inches.
I think
Okay.
all in all with the brackets,
Mm-hmm,
maybe that would measure the total, but.
okay.
But the banner itself is 60
the
by
banner itself
24?
is- Yeah, 60 by 24, it's the exact replication of what's at do or die.
Okay,
And
yeah,
this is
because,
the-
Okay.
This is the updated,
all right, well, we're gonna go with you. Oh, like, give me the update.
these are the samples, these were the two renderings
Okay.
that you chose.
Oh, I haven't even seen these.
It's very similar, we added, one of our
Well, this
legal-
is a nice surprise, okay. We're gonna, I thought they were the same renderings.
No.
All right, so we have two to pick from tonight. There we go. We'll give one for Judy. So if you read the staff report, and more importantly, the email exchange,
Yeah.
you'll see that there was a bit back and forth, maybe a little bit of concern about the coloration and more so the, you know, if it fit in with our historical character and what they could do. And reading through that exchange, it appears that their company has certain branding restrictions. So the Weichert yellow is part of their branding. The square box is part of the branding. So what I firstly suggested is if we could invert, you know, could it be a black sign with the yellow Weichert?
Yeah, it's more subtle.
And I guess they were able to do that?
Yeah,
Was that approved by legal?
right now it's pending, but.
It's on this
Right
paper.
now is two versions of which they proposed and is,
There's no disclaimer.
yeah, is subject to approval with the independently owned and operated with the right font type and cap case sensitivity. But or what I was given to propose tonight.
Okay.
Okay, so just so we're clear, I guess there's quite a few divisions or companies within the Weichert family, and there's some variation
Yes.
of how the branding takes place as a result. So in our packet, for example, we were given some examples like this, but that's not part of your brand options?
No,
or
it
your
is.
rendered options?
Those are available options. We'd be happy to adhere to what the town wants us to put up.
Okay, because that was a
What was-
little different than what Pete was saying.
We're just trying to stay consistent with what's on Main Street,
Okay.
and with the structure of what our space will be, it just seems consistent to run with what Do or Die has as their exterior signage. We can have a oval sign, but it would break up what you have, so
Gotcha.
our
Okay.
landlord suggested the banner, what you're looking at here, because it's consistent with
Right,
the road.
certainly shaped and
And
sized.
there was,
everything,
that was
yeah,
a good point, because it may
Absolutely.
get lost.
And,
Yeah, I mean, across,
yeah,
my constituents across the country have signs, as long as it's Pantone yellow, and it has the independently owned and operated, based on community restrictions, they adhere to those restrictions. The landlord suggested this to remain consistent, and we were okay with it. And we're flexible in that regard, and happy to.
well, where black is the predominant color as opposed to the Pantone yellow, it does tone it down a little bit. Good. All right.
So, and thank you for bringing those.
Sure.
And I apologize to the commission, I didn't realize we had the one, like the inverted. And not because it was my suggestion, but I tend to prefer, the black
Yep.
with the yellow, but, how does the commission feel about that, or the style overall, or?
Can we, let's see, here we go. Well, we don't have this up on the slide, you just.
No,
have this
and
here.
because I just got it, I apologize.
And the sign would be placed, this is good, so that's
just
do
put
or
it there,
die
it
right
doesn't
there.
work.
There's do or die up there.
Mhm.
Okay.
You've got a lot of black and white or black and
Yeah.
a lighter color
Right,
in all of the signage in this area.
mhm.
So it fits
Yes.
right in
Fits
from
right.
that standpoint.
And the goosenecks are black, and
Yep.
a lot of the,
Yep.
the backboards to the signage are
Yep.
black.
Mhm.
And it almost carries a little bit into the Watkins building as well, where they
Yep.
have those, blackboards and everything.
Yep.
Yeah, I
If
like the
may,
black one.
The placement of the sign is approximately directly above the eye and hive.
Yeah.
In between that mullion on the window.
Okay.
Yeah, I think there was a picture in the packet where they, tried to draw it in.
Tried to shift, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I like it.
The dimensions are similar to, these dimensions, 24 by 60, similar to do or die?
Now, the dimensions that I
He
looked
said
up
it was identical,
were,
24 by
It's
60.
the same vendor that produced
Okay.
the
Oh.
die sign.
so it might have been a different scale of the dimensions, what were taken.
Right, but if we make a motion, what you're proposing, if the commission were to approve the the black background and make a motion, motion, the size would be the 24 inches by 60 inches, which is what we have here?
Yeah, that's what I understand that one to
Okay.
be. I don't unfortunately know any different.
Yeah, that looks about right, because the window's
I
like,
think all in all, with the goosenecks and the lighting, it makes sense that it's 102 inches in total function, but I don't think that sign is over 80 inches.
Okay, and that's what, what was presented to us, so thank you for
I'm
coming.
sorry, I just want to take a look at that. 'cause
Yeah,
that
no,
just
this
seems
is-
gigantic.
Well, and that's what but we checked it actually with Do or Die, and it was similar.
Inside?
It was similar in size, because I didn't, so they might be taking like the full bracket.
Yeah, I can't imagine being
Yeah.
that large.
So why don't we just,
Because those are 5-foot windows,
right,
and
Yeah.
the sign fits in the window.
yeah,
So it makes sense they're 60 inches rather than.
That's true.
yeah, because we
If they're 5-foot
pulled the
windows.
permit for Do or Die, and Do or Die was very similar.
Now, where are the goosenecks mounted above the do or die sign? And do they illuminate the entire sign on both sides? Because that's a vertical application on the second story. Everything on the first story is basically horizontal, and so, the goosenecks would literally have less depth that they had to illuminate. So how is there sufficient light from each of the goosenecks for the vertical signage?
I did
Do we know?
not look at it with respect to that at night.
Can I look right now?
Yeah, we can go out in the snow, that's fine with me, I'm excited about the snow.
Field trip.
Or is
I'm
the
fairly
lighting,
confident there's one on each side.
Well, I would think, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I suspect it's probably adequate, or something would have been said back then. So,
how do you formulate a proper motion?
I don't know. Heather, can you make a suggestion of a format for?
I would approve
Appropriate
the, honestly, the design,
Okay.
with the Pantone black with yellow text. And I would, further, so approve the design, and then, just to match the similar dimensions of Do or Die. Since there may be two methods difference of, measurements.
All right, so,
Okay.
and then what about the lighting? Is that part of the motion?
No, I mean, would there be, why am I not seeing that? Because will there be the installation of lighting? Okay, so.
It's gonna match exactly what the
Okay.
guy has.
So that,
Not to continue to go back to that, but
No, that's fine, because
Well, that's
I'm
good.
just trying to, from a legal perspective, we're
Yes.
gonna make a motion to
Right.
approve something,
yeah,
but we have to be very specific
absolutely.
for your protection and the town's protection, so.
yeah, all right, so accept the design with the black Pantone and yellow text.
Matching the dimensions and the lighting used for Do or Die.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, all right, so I'll try, let me try it.
Go ahead.
All right, I'll move the planning commission accept the proposed design of, the proposed design in the handout with Pantone black, yellow text, and the physical dimensions and lighting match the current Do or Die signage. And it's ugly, but it works. I
No,
think.
it,
I'm looking at the lawyer. It's ugly, but.
Is there a second?
I'll second the,
Okay.
motion.
Motion made by Chris, seconded by Leslie. Any further discussion? All those in favor, let me know by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign? All right, very good.
thank you very much.
Sure.
Thank you. We open in a month, provide some,
Awesome.
Thanks for your effort to,
no, absolutely.
you know, to partner with us.
And
We're
see
glad
how
to
you
see
know
you.
where we're at. You can just come to
They said you guys
meetings.
had great donuts.
You know what we normally do, when we have meetings on Mondays, not on Thursdays, I don't know.
Thank you very much.
Don't forget the business card exchange. All right,
Very nice, be safe, everybody.
all right,
Thank
thank
you.
you, you as well. Well, that was a nice surprise.
Yeah,
That
that's
was
great.
very nice.
That was like a present.
All right, so we can move on to our site plans
Okay.
tonight. First one is Lot 7 at Twin Arch Industrial.
Yes, this should look familiar to everybody. This came before you as a concept plan in June of 2014, and it did receive concept plan approval. Consistent with the concept plan, we're still proposing 3 mini warehouse storage buildings, and they are going to be of similar design of the property just south of them, as well as just east of them. So it's going to have a storage complex in that corner there. The buildings continue to range from 15,560 square feet to 19,660 square feet. Access to the units continue to be accessed via Lot 8. We're not going to have them go through the front of the portion of this lot. We already have access, for big trucks on the adjacent lot, so we're going to continue to utilize that. This actually amends the originally approved plan, and you can see that the proposed development, or the front portion of the lot is delineated. There were some minor changes. It used to be a straight access way that went up to connect to the rear portion of the lot, and that has been taken out. The parking in the concept plan was adequate and continues to remain adequate. There are details provided in your final site plan package for a gray concrete retaining wall. There is one detail that I'm going to ask the project engineer to just talk about that wasn't in the plan set that you received, and that was for the chain link fence. So probably minor in detail, but we just want to have that on record. Landscaping plan, I received a submittal addressing that today. It doesn't, the concept plan had a schedule that met town standards. The plans that you have before you, there was a layer that was turned off, and unfortunately, you don't have that in front of you, but that has been rectified, and we will ensure that it continues to meet town code. But essentially, to accommodate staff's request, we asked for a row of evergreens on the north portion of that lot. They will be removing 3 trees on the south portion of the lot in order to gain access to the rear portion of the lot. Stormwater management, in the concept plan, it was originally proposed that and I'm gonna refer to Barney on this.
Oh, the underground.
Yeah, underground filtration system. And when they were actually going through their approvals, unfortunately, there was a failure in the county of 1, possibly 2 of these systems, and it caused enough of a concern, and so the project hit a little snag, during the reviews. So what they've done is they've proposed the porous surface, and the county has accepted that conceptually. It still has to go through some final comments.
Good.
I talked to Myron Frock just yesterday, not anticipating any issues, but that is a comment that's still pending. But we continue to, we support the project as that's not going to change. We don't anticipate that that's going to change the layout or anything on the lot. This site is actually not going to impact water in any way. It will not need water for fire suppression. And so water and sewer won't even be extended to the rear of the lot for these buildings. I'm going to allow the town engineer to talk a little bit more about the road adequacy and frame the discussion for the expansion fund.
Okay, maybe first before we get there, is there any comments from the owners, from the development company that you want to speak to first?
Ron Thompson, Van Mar, I can never resist an open mic. But we do have four, just to show you, what the units would look like in the row of trees along the access road up to the well.
Ron, that's the north side where your trees are, where your hands are?
Yes.
Okay.
And so Century Drive is over on the left.
Century Drive is to the left. And as had been discussed, access is off of the existing self-storage units. The stormwater management, the county has cleared the storm tanks now to be used, but we are proceeding with pervious pavement through the entire project there. Accesses will be through the existing units.
Ron, the previous pavement, basically brick pavers that the water just flows underneath.
It's concrete, right. The example would be what's up at 1304 South Main Street was the first project in the town that used porous concrete
That's
pavement.
the Mount Airy bed.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen those all over Europe. They're very popular.
Right, and I actually did pavers. They actually came in less expensive, surprisingly, for out on Old Frederick Road, for the dentist out there across from the fish market.
Yeah, the only downside, I guess, you put them on streets is snow.
You don't
plows.
put it on streets, but they're fine for parking lots
Right.
where you don't have high traffic volume or a lot of pedestrian traffic. But quite frankly, a lot of people like the pavers
Oh, yeah, they're great.
aesthetically
They're great.
more. But right
'Cause you get
now,
grass growing
this
up
is
and-
concrete. Well, they actually put a mixture in so they
Oh.
don't have the, and that's just what matching the same as what it was before in terms of color.
So in terms of design features and so forth, the new units, that area will harmonize completely with the.
I think it'll be basically exactly the same. Metal building, storage, blue doors.
And the coloration, the color schemes
Colors
are
are the same.
And there's no signage proposed.
There's no signage proposed. Signage already exists at the existing entrance. What they normally do is put a little sticker on saying number 102 or whatever the unit is above it, so people know where their storage units are.
Heather, there was a slight new increase in water, right? None at all?
No, none at all. There is actually, water won't even be extended
Okay, got
for
it.
this portion of the project.
That's correct. No water or sewer connection at all.
Okay, because I mean, we had a spreadsheet in there that said total use.
Another 7 East Ridgeville Boulevard.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you know, that was really difficult when we were talking about sevens. We were, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Ron, I have a question.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about this retaining wall, and do you know the geogrid, is this a geogrid wall?
It will be a modular block wall, and we actually have reduced the size of it and the scope of it down quite a bit back there.
From what's shown on here?
Yeah, we brought it forward. We're going to do a waiver. The county will allow us to do a waiver in terms of offset from the building for grading, and which reduces the height of the wall. Maximum in one location is 10 foot. So it will be,
But that's the maximum you're going to see it all? Right now you're showing like 13.
right, yeah, it got too big and would be too much cost-wise and everything.
Does that require them to come back, Heather, to us?
It would, if
It's
that
on
did
the
come
amended
up.
site plan that we've submitted there, showing what
One-
would be the final.
The one I got today?
Yes,
Okay,
right, it's the
well,
same, it's the same material, geogrid behind modular block wall.
Okay, do you know how long the geogrid would be, the length, the longest length?
Generally, it's about ballpark, maybe 2 times the height is what they, at the bottom and on the way up,
Okay, and
depending upon what they're doing.
can you talk about how drainage will be addressed coming down that hill and meeting the wall?
There actually is an opening now in the wall, so the water can go down and the wall picks up down here. David colored in the shadow of the building, so it will actually enter into a grass swale, which then comes down to the yard inlet.
Is it flowing over the wall? Is that your intention?
No, it should now flow down, and there's an opening in the wall of about 200 feet, which is where the water will go in, on the revised plan. That was addressing that conflict. So whatever is left, the minor amount of water that's coming over the wall, if there is. I mean, the area between, it's like, well, 50 feet maximum to the top of the hill. So it's not a big drainage area headed down there.
So you-
Heather, do you have
Yes,
that?
ma'am.
Do you have that amended plan?
I just got it today. I can go down and get a copy if the commission wants to. This is not optimal, of course.
So is this area graded now? Is it cut in any way?
It
or
is
just-
not graded at this point in time. and
So it's just the
plan
natural
is-
slope that's there now?
Right, rather than leaving a big stockpile, Heather, you can take my copy if you want there.
I'll go get mine. Thanks, Ron.
Rather than this big stockpile, we're grading the area out so it looks somewhat finished. It's not a finished grade for whatever comes along in phase 2, but it's not going to be this huge stockpile sitting there for a number of years.
It's a temporary pad.
Yeah, it gets close to it, and then they'll move earth again when they move the soil, when they figure out whatever is the final design in here.
Okay.
Well, I was reading some, what is Heather grabbing?
Here's a amended site plan that was submitted today. So
Yesterday, I
this has
think
been
that
updated,
came.
this plan is, that we have right in front of us, it's not the,
The changes in the plan, they're the same with the exception that we've addressed town comments. And, I've been trying to keep up with addressing the town comments. And in doing so, brought the retaining wall in closer to the building, which allowed it to be a smaller retaining wall, more manageable.
So, I'm sorry, just for process, so the town comments went to y'all a month ago or more?
No, a week ago. The 6th, I think they were dated the 6th, so what's that? about a week?
There's been a few sets of comments.
It's
That
been
was the
going
latest
back and
comments.
forth.
And it got to a point where, I'm speaking for Heather, sorry, that we felt it was ready to come to you for planning commission, and with the caveat that all agency comments are addressed.
Yeah.
He just happened to provide that today. And he didn't have to provide that ahead of the planning commission.
so,
Well, I'm sorry, run that by me again?
Just for the final comments, because they were minor in nature, we felt that they could come to you, to the planning commission, with the recommendation saying that all agency comments are addressed.
Okay, but we have those comments. Now,
Yeah,
now we
yeah,
have.
they're technical,
Yeah, you
they're
have them now.
technical in nature. This one has not had a handicap ramp or move, but it pertains to details. It doesn't pertain to the overall layout of the site.
Right,
It's
I'm-
answering.
Right, but I'm just trying to address from a process perspective. I know there's always pressure on staff to meet the needs of the community, to get stuff to the commission, to get it passed. I'm just, if staff doesn't get answers to the comments in sufficient time, then you kind of put the town in a position
No,
of,
we got the comments last week.
well, but there were initial set of comments, right? I mean, it's just been going back and forth.
Yeah, those
Right.
initial set of comments, they're in this plan that you have already
Okay.
before
So
this.
it's like
It was just final comments that they were.
Right, I'm just trying to point out is, I know staff, they know the responsibility is given to them by the mayor to meet the needs of the development community, to make sure we get stuff through. But if things go back and forth and at the 11th hour we get stuff, it just makes the process kind of difficult. I'm just pointing out for the record that they try to do what they, staff does what it, tries to accommodate everybody. But if you hit them at the last minute, it's hard. That's all.
Is there a way to summarize, give us a summary of these comments so we have a sense, how germane they are to what we have here? Or if there's anything else that we need to be aware of. If they don't affect us materially, then so be it.
I can give you, since I have them, a response here to the project. We added the text in there about agreeing for litigation statement for the code. The details, Barney asked for manhole details to change to town detail. And then because we had used AutoCAD versions that didn't have the signature of the town, he asked us to put back signature, signed rough ones in there. So it's those type of details, a signage reference, correction that lighting is only on the buildings and not a note correction there, instead of on poles, providing the colors for the buildings. Those are the
How do we
gist of it.
get the retaining wall changed? Was that addressing a comment?
Addressing owner concern that the wall was too high in the back of the buildings.
Okay.
So it basically, it's not a site element that is visible from the street.
I understand that, but unfortunately, that's not where we have to worry about consistency with the approved plan and what's actually built. So when I give a plan to this commission to act on, I'm doing it in good faith that this primarily represents, except for perhaps some engineering details. So that's where the learning that the change in the retaining wall is a little frustrating, because they're trusting us that what we're presenting to them is going to happen. So, out of respect for the applicant, though, I would ask the Planning Commission to, if you can take a few minutes even, or if you need to review the set, and Jennifer can probably help guide through the changes.
So I'm sorry, I'm completely losing continuity.
I apologize.
No, it's not, I'm losing continuity of the process here. So, all right, we have a set of plans,
Yes.
but these are not the plans, this is not the document getting approved.
Well, I would prefer that the document that was just submitted today, that we haven't had an opportunity to review. Barney?
The only change in the document between the plans is that
I'm sorry, between this, so these were the plans given to us.
So you're okay.
right.
Yeah.
The only material change, I don't use the word material because that means something else here. Significant change is that we reduce the height of the retaining wall behind the buildings.
And I'm sorry, I got it, and then the documentation saying that we're reducing the height of the building, that came yesterday.
Today.
That came today.
That was submitted, was it this morning or was it yesterday? I don't remember, but within the day.
Within the last 48 hours.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Ron, you
No, I
understand that
understand.
from a, we're not trying to jam you up.
Absolutely.
I'm concerned that having gone through a huge problem with a building and discrepancies and what the commission approved and having a lawsuit, that we don't want to do that again.
What I can tell you is that the
And I'm sorry,
retaining
and staff, if staff gets stuff within 40, this morning, I don't know how we can reasonably expect them to verify what we're doing meets town standards, codes, legal, it's fair. I mean, unless you disagree with me.
Well, and we receive a revision, we're under the impression it simply just addresses the comments and that nothing else has changed. So if I know that we have a revised plan like today, I'm just like, thank you for working hard and reflecting all of our comments, but now we learn that there's another change.
Right, so you're asking, in a sense, if we make a motion tonight without the ability of our town planner and town professional engineer to review what we're making a motion on, we frankly don't know what we're voting on. We can't verify it.
We would be voting on what was submitted to us, and if there's a significant change, staff feels like there's a significant change, they have to bring it back to us.
Yeah, they'd raise their hand and it would stop
They would have to
and they'd come back.
Yeah. We'd have to do that too, all too.
I mean, understand.
Right, and
I'm leaving
they
the
would,
discussion,
and they would
sorry.
have to make a decision whether or not
Yeah.
a reduction of a retaining wall in the back of the site is a significant change from an architectural.
Right, but you
site.
understand the position that the commission is in.
Yeah,
Okay.
Well, why don't we just
I'd
leave
like
it
to-
at that then?
Could I also just say, you keep bringing up architectural and whether it looks, what you see from the front, but I think this commission looks more than just that. So I don't want anybody in the audience to think that all we're looking at is what the aesthetics of the building from the front of the building. And that's why I brought the comment up. As a matter of fact, I brought the comment up because I was concerned about your limit of disturbance and whether you were actually go outside of it with that.
Mhm.
And your reduction in wall height alleviates my concern, so I feel better about that.
So, because we don't want to jam this up, I'm sorry, I'll be blunt, I always am. I'll place the burden upon you for producing an incomplete package. But that being said, in
Well,
order to avoid jamming this up, we could always approve it conditional and staff can shoot it down.
Right. Yeah, I think we should look at what we have tonight.
And then ask you, please don't do
We're in
this
agreement
again.
with it.
But I have, my only concern about doing that, and I can do it, is that I'm gonna have a comment on this one. So if we approve it, I wanna make a comment about my concern about the wall height and the
Sure.
geogrid length and whether it's gonna impact the limit of disturbance. He's addressed it with this version,
okay.
so I'm not sure exactly how to.
So let
And
me,
my concern about accepting the revised plan is, are there any other changes
Yeah.
that you guys would be approving that we're not aware of?
Right.
So could we approve the plan that you guys have with the modified retaining wall?
I'm fine with that.
I think so. I think we have to draw a line in the sand that.
I don't want to impact the applicant.
I don't
I
either.
want-
I don't either, but it's gonna have to be a conditional approval, it seems like.
Mhm.
Okay.
What we're saying is, I'm sorry, because I want to address the applicants directly, is we don't want to jam this up, but if at the last minute we get a package that we can't figure out really what's in here and what's not,
Well, and if staff has not had full opportunity to review it, if there's anything new or different from what they've already reviewed and approved, then it's not appropriate, it's not fair to them. And then,
Yes,
if-
could we do something
all.
where we
That's all.
are approving it subject to, first thing would be any, all outstanding comments get addressed.
Yeah,
That's
and
your
that's all right.
Yep.
And then we could also say, subject to the concerns, and I can word it, whatever.
Sure.
Yeah.
The concerns of the retaining wall
Yeah.
being addressed. And then, if you have other things you find out in your review after the fact that are concerning, you can bring it
Sure.
back.
are you comfortable with that,
And
I
it's
think that
appreciated,
works.
yes.
Barney?
Yes.
Okay.
and please don't do, and I'll ask, please not do this
Well,
again.
It wasn't the intent, it's just
Yeah.
this
Understood.
odd meeting between 2 months has the
It's been a
schedule
trying
has made
time
it a
for
little bit.
everybody.
So normally that isn't the normal routine. It is just the middle of a month type of 2 meetings. into one.
So it sounds like,
So can we take a shot at the motion?
hopefully it'd be better than my
Wait a minute,
last.
I gotta find the right page first.
All right.
Jennifer, thank you for discussing the law.
Okay, so we have a recommendation already. for this.
Yeah, we have a recommendation from,
So you're gonna add a 3 and a 4 to this, I think, right?
One. What's the three and the four?
Well, so we have the usual language.
I don't have
Oh, sorry.
that. One,
Can I-
Yeah, the usual language, and then you're gonna add a 3 about the retaining wall, and then we need to add a 4 to cover Heather's.
are you, you have the right one?
No,
You may have a different one.
do I get a different one? Where?
Look at page 1. That's not the right one.
Oh, okay. That's a boilerplate motion.
It's not the right
I'm
one.
looking at the boilerplate motion.
I don't think I need to, unless Heather states otherwise, I don't think I need to state any other, add any other recommendations other than the retaining wall issue.
Right.
Do I have?
No, I just, if your motion can state provided all final and town and county agency comments are addressed, it's
Yeah.
on page 3.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So the motion is, well, did you want to ask a motion? Did you already?
Please make the motion.
Okay, I move to approve the submitted, the site plan as amended and submitted, provided that all final town and county agency comments are addressed, and that staff is comfortable with the retaining wall as proposed, and the required geogrid length does not impact the limit of disturbance proposed on the plan.
I'll second it.
Motion made by Jennifer and seconded by Chris. Okay, discussion? Any further discussion? One question I have would be,
Yes.
are you going to be able to identify a specific version that you're comfortable with and that you've approved?
What we will do is we will ensure that the plan submitted today
Okay.
captures everything that you approved on the plan that was submitted for your review. Obviously with the retaining wall.
Okay.
And we will ensure that no other changes have been made. So the answer to your question is yes.
Okay, so that syncs up. All right. Do you have any other comments that you want to make? Anybody else? Okay, then let's vote. All those in favor of the motion as proposed, let me know by saying aye. Aye. All opposed like sign?
Thank you.
Good, thanks for working with us, folks. Wish you the best of it.
I think yours is over there.
No,
I think that was cleaner.
that was practical.
That was cleaner.
Tonight is ugly night.
I know there's a good example of working together.
It's cleaner.
Yeah, a good example of working together. Okay. 7 East Ridge Board.
Okay, and this too should be familiar. Yeah.
It's Copper Penny Town.
I'm good, thanks.
Just had to take care of the liaison. Okay, this too should look familiar. This came before you in May of 2014 for concept approval and was approved. And the site plan continues to propose a 3-story gross square foot commercial and residential building structure totaling 7,065 square feet. The building continues to be situated on the southeast portion of the parcel, and it overlaps the existing building with additional footprint. The parking will be located in the same location as the existing parking area located to the rear of the building. and the site will be accessed from the existing entrance off of East Ridgeville Boulevard. During the concept plan approval, the Planning Commission allowed that the parking standard for apartments be relaxed for this project to one space per unit or bedroom, given the constraints of the site and the size of the efficiency apartments. The final site plan submittal does reflect this condition. The added asphalt at the north end of the property does exceed the 20-foot setback requirements for parking, and this was delineated in the concept plan approval. The town staff sees no issues with allowing this as it abuts the town's elevated water storage tank property. Planning Commission's approval of the final site plan will accept the encroachment of the new parking pavement area at the north end of the lot. And this condition has been identified on sheet number 1 under comment 8. The landscaping details are shown on page 3 of 7. The site predominantly exists of impervious surface along with the building structure. The existing green area in the north portion of the lot is not able to be salvaged in order to install even the minimum number of parking spaces required. This landscaping plan is not optimal as general standard for site development plans, but it has been deemed to meet the landscaping plan. In redevelopment situations where site constraints exist, or in areas where impervious surfaces are typical for the streetscape, such as the downtown area, the ability to install large quantities of vegetation may be problematic. Staff offers the suggestion of perhaps some potted vegetation where possible after the building is constructed. As specified again in the road comment section, which I'll get to in a moment, a curb gutter and sidewalk with appropriate handicap ramps is recommended for the front of the property. These details are being addressed by the engineering department and will require approval before the Mylar set of plans is circulated for approval. And this is probably the first project, I believe, where we are asking the Planning Commission to approve the water allocation permit under our new ordinance. So both the water allocation proposal and permit are attached for the Planning Commission's approval tonight. With regard to roads, a deceleration lane for both this property entrance and the Bank of America entrance has been provided. The utility pole at the southwest corner of the property will be relocated and the curb pulled back as already shown on the concept plan. A curb gutter and sidewalk with appropriate handicap ramps are planned for the front of the property, and comments continue to be addressed by the project engineer. And our town engineer will be following up to ensure that they are addressed. As stated in the concept plan staff report, the proposed use of the new commercial and residential structure will not generate 50 vehicular trips in the AM or PM peak traffic periods. The nearest intersections include Ridgeville Boulevard at South Main Street, Ridgeside Drive at Ridgeville Boulevard, and Ridgeville Boulevard at Maryland 27. From the town's latest records, all of these intersections are operating at a sea level of service or better, and there are no known safety concerns that would require a traffic impact study. Schools, as this is a commercial facility with efficiency residential units, Carroll County Board of Education was contacted and advised that the schools would not be impacted. Staff is waiting on a comment to verify that school capacity is adequate, but does not anticipate any capacity issues with this time. And this is actually facilitated through the Carroll County Development Review Department, and it's a ATC report, adequate threshold capacity, and it will be required to have a certification to go further in the plan process. There are no open space requirements for this project, and we are still waiting on comments for fire and police adequacy, but we do not anticipate any issues at this time. And the architectural elevations, I'm actually going to ask Mr. Thompson to come up. He has provided a color rendering, which is better than what I have for you up there on the screen. The one The only really change that we have in front of us with regard to the concept plan is the color of the roof. And Chris and Vicki Foreman were out, welcome, by the way, and they noticed the copper penny type metal roofing during a trip, and they really liked that. So they actually incorporated that into the design. So that's the only change that you'll likely notice. Now, I sent a late rendering to everybody via email, but it has a signage plan, and that's a really nice touch, and we appreciate Chris for being very proactive, Chris and Vicki, for being very proactive with introducing their signage and getting it approved during the site plan submission. So other than that, I'll hand it over to Ron to talk about the particular architectural details of this project.
I think the color, we've tried to match, not many coloring pencils to match copper penny roofs, but this comes fairly close to it. And they've drawn upon 3 colors, the copper penny, we've got the 2 bricks, the golden suede, as well as the metal rose color. And then a large FT for Foreman Tower, 24 inches tall on each end of the building, black on the sandstone background there.
And is that a sample of the roofing, Ron?
That is a sample
Would you mind passing
of
that around?
the roofing,
Thank you.
depending on whether it's under the light or it will have a different color.
Now, will
Slightly.
that like patina at all, or will it just stay copper? Like, will it get that like rusted?
I
like,
think
no,
it
just
stay.
copper?
It
Huh?
will.
Is it like a penny?
Yeah, is it a penny?
Is it gonna look like the Statue of Liberty?
It is a color. It is not.
Okay,
It
it's
is
not
not
copper.
copper.
I don't, you know. Okay.
Wow, if it were, I'd be over there at night. Tearing up the roof selling it. Oh wait, I didn't say that
Well,
on tape,
Chris
did I?
said it was good.
Not on tape, did I?
So they put quite a bit in to the building, quite frankly, to have an architectural distinctive style
And proactively, if I may add,
Awesome,
this
at
was
the
all
corner
Chris and
coming
Vicki.
in.
awesome.
So
And I did a calculation of the signage, and I have my notes, and with all of the proposed signs added, including the 2 FTs, it calculates to 21 square feet of signage, and the building frontage is actually 30 feet. So they are well within their permitted signage.
Is that the only signage then, is the RT?
No, they're,
I'm sorry,
did you
not-
get the little, here, look at mine. They're these, they've already laid out the placement of the signage and the materials.
on the front, there are
So-
a couple different size
Yeah,
signs
so
for
there'll
the
be a
different
door
suites
sign
that'll
here,
give tenant
and a door sign
identification.
there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
All right,
so
okay.
they've already laid that out, which is great.
It's fantastic.
Now, they don't know the name of the tenants yet, of course, but they're letting us know that it's gonna be a wood background sign with the black letters.
Perfect.
Very, very
Talk about the lighting, Ron. I'm excited about the lighting.
Exciting about.
Well, the lighting fixtures?
The lighting fixtures are full cut-off fixtures there. I think they're shown in the plans. You have them underneath. The building has an overhang along the side, and then, of course, we've got 2 lights in back in the parking area. And it meets the town's code for lighting.
And will they be black?
Yes.
They'll have a black
They're
finish.
called-
So
it's
that'll
called
tie in
black.
with the signage and
Right.
everything.
The roofing gutters, the pea black, so forth.
It's gonna be beautiful.
The pending comments from like emergency services to schools,
Mhm.
that's not gonna delay the project, is it? In other words, if it were, can we push the county, push the other comments just so they can get rolling?
What it will delay potentially is at any building permit stages.
Okay.
So, you received comments for the fire protection engineer about sprinklers and everything? Yeah, so from a fire protection standpoint, there's a building side of it
Right.
and a site plan side of it. I'm still pending for the site plan side of it. And if we don't have that, we won't allow it to go forward for the site plan. That's just, if we can't deem it adequate, we're not anticipating an issue.
Yeah, and I guess, are there any delays that are gonna cause you, are there any pending delays that's gonna cause you all heartburn? In other words, if there's a way, there's something left in here that's pending that we can help push, I mean, we should do that. I'll ask staff to do that.
Thanks, Chris.
Well, Heather's pretty good, but I
Yeah,
don't know.
I don't know, I'm happy about the snow right now, but,
I mean, the county's been going under for about a month, at least 2 months, they've had it in their hands for 2 months, and we just now got two, 3-page response back on a lot of stuff. So everybody's working on architectural, mechanical, and structural. There's a bunch of stuff, but all the sprinkler stuff's fine. That's
Okay.
all approved, all the
Okay.
utility approved, all that's approved.
It's just waiting on the other people to respond back.
Right, but
Hopefully all that comes in.
I
the folks that they're waiting on aren't impacting.
no, and
Okay,
I
okay.
actually, I reached out to our development review liaison in the county,
Yeah.
and he's pushing to get me the certifications that I need so that Barney can sign off and circulate Mylars when they're submitted.
Okay, so, and if you don't hear anything from the county in the next day or so, let's call up to Richard Rothschild and say,
You're waiting on stuff from me.
okay.
No,
Well, that
no,
might
this-
just be the
Chris,
building
this would be
permit.
for the site plan.
Yeah,
This is separate.
Yeah, I just,
Okay.
we don't want anything standing in your way.
Yeah.
Okay.
No.
Okay, can you talk about the entrance width and how two cars are going to pass each other? Are you envisioning this to be a one-way or 14 foot wide? I'm concerned about a car that's coming out and then somebody trying to turn in on East Richfield Boulevard being stopped because they can't get
I
in.
think that that was what was approved in the concept and so forth, but in reality, because of the short distance, we also have cut in really a deceleration lane or a turn lane,
Yeah, so you're
so that
thinking
the
there's
visibility, if somebody's starting to turn in and somebody were coming out
just have to
in the middle, they're not going to be stopped out in traffic, waiting for it. I mean, we have a total of 12 parking spaces, so it's not a high amount of traffic.
So they'll be stopped in the decel lane until the other person comes out.
Yeah. If there was a conflict.
Yeah, we make,
Not an ideal situation, but
well, it's not, but we felt like there was some, it was reasonable for some of the allowances
well,
that we discussed.
it's really not safe, but it's, you guys are, I mean, I'm bringing it up because I'm concerned about it, but certainly it was already brought up in the concept review.
So
Well,
we have
number
an
of
existing
spaces.
difficult, I mean, it's a difficult place to rehab, so.
Right.
No, I think the decel lane certainly adds a level of improvement as far as entering that entrance, definitely. We need it now for what's there, for the entrance next door already. So what you're providing there helps a lot.
There was one thing that does need to be addressed, and I think it's gonna fall back to the town, is that pole. I'm not doing very well with that pole. One is not
How do
on
you mean?
property.
Oh, it's not on your property.
That pole was going to get moved, wasn't it?
Oh, well, you offered to move it.
The pole was moved when they did Bank of America, when that was approved, they moved that pole out 4 feet. In fact, I found a cut up pole back in my back lot where they cut it up to about here. But they moved that pole out.
Can you throw it back to Bank of America?
And I'm not, we've talked to some people about moving it. It's pretty pricey, right, Ron? $50,000 we're talking?
Very pricey.
Which pole is this?
I'm not-
It's a main line
You look like
Verizon pole. It has 900 pair copper. It comes out of the substation off of Main Street, and it is somebody a lot of time.
Can you make that turn out of there with the pole there?
Yeah,
Yeah, we
it's
brought that
and
in line with the curb line,
I
in line
see that, but if you can't move the pole, can you make the turnout without going into the oncoming traffic?
I'm hoping the drone will take that.
The pole would impact the 14-foot width.
Yeah.
That's the issue.
I mean,
Yes,
it's- oh, yeah.
Barney.
Yeah, that
But it's
pole,
wider there.
yeah, that pole's right there about the property line between Bank of America and this property. It was addressed at Bank of America time, and without having this property to create that decel lane, that pole we didn't decide to move that pole then, it was going to be moved with this property. So that's why it's there now. But the answer to the question, you can't pull out of this property into the right turn lane that goes to northbound Main Street without going out into the other travel lane.
Yeah, that was my question.
The idea was move it back so you have a decel lane that leads right into that turn lane.
Right,
Yeah,
for
but
12
that
cars.
pole's out too far to have that lane go through.
Right, but for 12 parking spaces and property that's already been through prelim and this is a marvelous way to redevelop something. You make, let's make allowances. I
But
understand
it's
what's,
gone this far under the assumption that the pole is going to be moved. I mean, we've already talked about one issue that you guys made a agreement on, which was the 14-foot wide entrance, and now you're saying we're going to go back and say, okay, you don't have to move the pole, and you're going to allow an unsafe condition. It's already an unsafe condition, and now you're going to make it worse.
I wouldn't, I won't disagree that it's safe or unsafe. I'm just saying, from my perspective, you've got a property in an extremely difficult situation. This is beautiful, this is what we would like and encourage. And if you have to accept the compromise, then you accept the compromise.
I don't compromise on public safety.
Don't forget to move the building back. You will also address this blind platform.
Public safety is not something that
taking the
I will
building back.
compromise on. I will not compromise on public safety. There's other issues here that I think we've compromised on. Parking is one of them.
No, I'm saying this is adding to it. The building is,
I
we
understand
just
that,
step the building back 6 more feet so you have more.
right, but this
Visible.
pole, we just heard from the town engineer, and I agree with him, that this pole, the location of the pole does not allow somebody to pull out of the
Well, yeah, they
site
shouldn't
without
do that.
going on into oncoming traffic.
So how about if you mount a sign on there that says no right turn?
They can't turn left there. That's gonna be possible.
Yeah, that left's not good there.
I
But
don't- I
that's a good idea.
I think the issue is the cost for the size of the development
Yeah.
here, and I don't think we're arguing potentially, and well, I don't want to say we're not arguing, it shouldn't be moved. The issue is the project cost can't, if this project were to have to support the entire cost of the relocation for Verizon there, whether moving the pole or underground, it significantly delays a start on this project, or if it could ever really happen. Whether or not the town has economic development funds to offset for that type of an improvement to the community, I would suggest that this type of utility relocation is definitely an economic development improvement. And really, the town ought to be willing to, with the type of investment being made on the site, put some skin in the game here on this one. I mean, in reality, I mean, that's what I really would suggest there. I mean, nobody expected to have a trunk line for this part of Maryland coming out of.
Right, for the record, I'm gonna vote for this, not, in my
No,
opinion.
but
I
I'm being-
understand, but for the record, I'm gonna vote for this, not moving.
What's the
I get it.
approximate development costs for the project?
Yeah, I don't think that's for our, I don't think
I
that's
don't
for the
know. I
planning
actually
commission
don't
to go
know.
into, because
Okay.
now we're getting into business.
But
practice
I
stuff.
do know, having dealt with a couple other projects and moving public utilities or private utilities to complete their designs, get a cost that's acceptable, and then get the work done, is extremely difficult, stressful.
Yeah, because you're not talking about one splice, you're talking about two splices.
Yeah,
It's a
it's
900
lot.
pair.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Does Verizon or the public utilities, do they ever get any skin in the game?
No, they've told me that it's in the public right of way. I've had them out at the site. They're working up
Where is it?
cost for me, a detailed design. But
Right now,
they've
you're
done enough,
looking
they
at
know what the
about
cost is
50,000.
going to be, yeah.
Oh, there's the shadow.
And what's the
Who owns
issue?
the pole? I mean,
Well, if you look at
is
this
there
plan-
an owner of the pole that you know?
This is coming out.
It's owned by Verizon.
Is it owned by Verizon?
It's owned by Verizon. It's only Verizon.
It has power
And
on
the
it.
plan is to
No, I
back.
don't think so.
So it's only low voltage.
Got it.
And it gives them time
And
reading
therefore,
for a car to make the turn.
that's what
on
makes it
its own car stop.
expensive.
Okay.
So
We
if
have
you can't
Comcast
go
and
pole
Verizon.
back,
How's that?
I'm not
Making
sure
it
if you
expensive?
Yeah, I mean, the Verizon pole and the amount of,
You don't have the electric power
I
in
don't think
addition
it's
to.
14 foot width.
that's sometimes a little easier to do.
I get it, I don't, to me, I get it completely, and I don't disagree with you, but in this circumstance, if you, my opinion is, if you levy this requirement on
So
this,
you think the council will vote to dedicate some money to this?
I
It's such a great
can't
economic
discuss,
development.
I'm recused
I
from
don't
that.
think they'll feel, yeah, he
I'm
can't.
recused from any discussion about the pole
I
and
know,
movement.
we were very enthusiastic
Can I ask
about
one
approving it
question?
either way.
Another question, did,
But we're getting wrapped up in something, I think we should just get a consensus
We
on
should.
whether we want to move
did you
it or
look
not.
into the
What she's-
potential for connecting to
Point
the
out
existing
this, there's the
parking
pole,
lot next door? And
the
providing an entrance
driveway
that
is
way?
here.
I believe that was
So,
explored. but
Ideally,
due
when you
to
pull out,
property issues,
you would pull out into a
it
DXL lane,
wasn't,
but you
allowed
can't,
to
you're
move
pulling out
forward.
into traffic. But you know what, it's a
But that-
35, my opinion, it's 12
that was
spots,
explored
This is
early
a
on
30
in the
mile an hour
process, and I
zone.
actually,
and we're
when
not
I
here
picked
to
up the final
kill.
design, said, hey, why
And
are
I
we doing
get the
this?
concern, we're just not here to
Had a
kill
tutorial
a
on
project that the
That
town
could be
really
a
wants.
The answer is
potential option.
Yeah, the answer was no.
This is
All right.
nothing back here.
Barney, do you want to contribute to this discussion? Do you have a position on this or opinion?
I would strongly recommend that you move the pole.
I'm over here.
I don't think that pole should be there. It's just gonna be a hazard later.
So you-
I understand there's a cost to it. It's not, apparently it's not a power pole, it's only the Verizon. So it's not both that they have to move, but if there's another way, but I think that lane needs to be opened up one way or another. Now, whether they can explore underground or, that's what some developments have done, like Ileana's Plaza, they put those utilities on the ground there in front of the building.
Yeah, but the cost, you're
I-
talking
I
a
don't
huge
know, I'm
difference
not-
between a property the scale of Ileana Plaza and
Cost.
two residents in town who are trying to rehab something small on a very,
I know,
very
but
limited
that-
budget.
That pole is a hazard for people pulling into Bank of America. It's a hazard.
It is now.
Then we should have had Bank of America, then we should
Yeah,
have,
I'm
then
wondering.
the town should have had Bank of America take care of that. They've got the money
Because
to
they already
do
did
it.
their improvements in front of their property,
I-
on two sides of the two streets.
Well, all right.
Can we retroactively share the responsibility? Or require the responsibility to be shared? Because
There isn't
it's
anything.
not fair to the current property owner to bear the full brunt.
And I think what we're suggesting is whether or not the town has economic development funds to apply to the Verizon relocation. Because you're improving the corridor by dealing with, you know, if
We
you had
can't answer
economic,
that
you would put it under,
No,
pardon?
we can't answer that question
know, but
here,
that's-
you know.
And I can't comment on it because I'm recused from the discussion.
But
I
it
wouldn't be
could be part of our recommendation. It could be part of a conditioned motion for acceptance. Those could be the conditions under which we propose it go forward.
Could I just suggest that if you poll just by consensus where the planning commission sits, are we for moving it or not? I understand the risks. I'm not for moving the pole. I don't want to set this project back.
I'm all in favor of this project from the very beginning and voted for the change in the parking, as you may recall, but I think that the pole, I'm not saying that they should pay for the full amount, but I think I would be for the pole being moved or some other alternative. And I'm more than happy to have it taken before the town council to see what the town's willing to contribute, you know, since it's a great opportunity and economic development also for the town.
How do you feel?
You know how I feel.
Well, speak up.
I believe that the pole should be moved for the safety of the traveling public to, or at least outside, coming out of the,
Okay. Judy, how do you feel?
I have to tell you, I'm really mixed because I want to see the project go through. I really do, and I don't want to see a pole being standing in the way. I do understand the safety feature. I get that, but my sense is that it's a lot of money. I'm not sure the town is really going to come up with that, and I don't think the project can bear that kind of weight, and I would hate to hold off that entire project just because of the pole. I get the safety concern. If the town could come up with that money, I think that'd be fantastic, but I think there's another, and I'm even okay saying, and I know you don't want to hear, delaying the project to make that happen, because it would put time onto the project. But I don't see, so I'm concerned about the town being able to come up with that kind of money.
I mean, it is in the plan here, though, relocate pole.
plus I don't know how you're gonna redesign it.
Okay.
I mean, you need to show us what you're gonna do.
Patty, how do you feel?
I'm in consensus that I think it's an outstanding project. I appreciate all the time and effort you put into it, and all the, you know, all the very particular things that you're doing to make it look aesthetically pleasing for the town. I think it's awesome. But on the other hand, I think we do have to take into account that for the safety reasons, and also aesthetically it would look better if they were underground. And perhaps there's some type of, I mean, maybe there's something we're missing here. Maybe there's some type of grant that you can get.
I'm sorry, there's no grant, and I'll just surmise that council, again, I'm recused from the subject. Council's
That's
not
okay.
gonna,
You're accused.
Yeah.
council
Yeah.
wouldn't fund something like this, because then it'll end up having to fund any exception like this, just on a matter of principle.
Oh, I don't think you speak for the town council.
Okay.
Yeah, I think
Doesn't
we owe it to ourselves just to take it forward, just to see what other options we may have to be able to put the pole underground. I mean, what are we talking about, another month? When the town council
Well,
will be able to,
Yeah.
can we bring this to the town council and have them
Or it could
review
be
it?
part of our recommendation, as Bill mentioned.
I mean, if we could expedite it, I would want to make sure that we expedited whatever we are going to do so that we don't delay the project too much longer.
I think we're all saying several things that make sense. We absolutely believe in the project. We want it to go forward. This would be an asset to the town. The degree of design and cooperation that's been involved in this project has been outstanding. It's not fair, however, for the current property owner to bear the full brunt of creating what would be a safe situation, or being saddled with the full cost of having to rectify it. We can't afford to obligate the town, nor would we choose to, but we could make a recommendation, it seems to me.
Could I just ask to make sure we know exactly what we're voting on? The dentist office that we voted on a month or so ago, right? They pull out, make a right into traffic, no acceleration lane there.
The eye care, Mount Airy eye care.
Yeah.
Well, wait.
There's a lot of concern
Well,
about that.
sorry, hold on.
That's a bad
Yes,
example.
yes, there's a lot of concern there. We passed that because it was existing property, too difficult to redevelop, and we wanted to see it go forth. I maintain that, burying this thing, moving this thing is beyond the return of investment on the property. My feeling is you will kill this project. And I think that's a tragedy, so
Can I ask the engineer?
for 12 cars, one trip a day.
Do you have an alternative proposal? Because right now your plan shows a decel lane and a 14-foot wide entrance and a turning radius that accommodates a car turning right. What is the alternative proposal? Because we're talking about something we don't even know what it's going to look like. You're not going to have a decel lane anymore because you can't have a decel lane that then it can't continue through. it's not wide enough, I'm assuming, because, I mean, I don't have a scale in front of me, but I'm assuming that's not gonna be wide enough. So what's this gonna look like? What's this alternative gonna look like if the pole's not new?
I think your D-cell should be there, but it's.
But it ends.
It's the access.
Yeah, well, you're gonna
And you would
stripe
have,
it as.
you would have a slightly narrowing of the driveway.
But is it wide enough, okay, is the D-cell wide enough to continue through, and if not, what are you gonna do? You're gonna stripe it to show that you can't go through it, and people are still gonna try to go through it?
Yeah, we'll cut the close. Yeah, there's already on the current plan, not a full axle turnout. It was modified for as much as we could get.
What's the width of that lane? What's the width?
Well,
What's the width with your proposal, and what's the width without moving the pole?
where's my center? Oh. Oh. All right, this is your double yellow line. So the D-cell area is 24 feet
No, that's the total width.
off,
This here.
off the center line. Here we go.
That's the one.
How did Bank of America get approved with no D-celling? Because that pole's right in the D-cell lane of the Bank of America.
Right.
Yeah, they had.
Bank of America,
Tangent.
Bank of America put in that decel lane, that full right turn lane. It didn't have a full right turn lane before Bank of America.
You don't have a D-cell lane in Bank of America. The pole's there, you can't.
From that
Roxanne,
the
you have a
entrance is
comment?
right there on the other side of the pole. From that entrance, it's a full lane width.
No, that
Right turn lane.
excels as an intersection. There's no D-cell there, Bank of America. Come Ridgeville.
I know because their entrance is right there at that property line.
Because the pole's there.
Right.
They should know, that's what I'm saying, how do they get around it? If I can't get around it. I'm giving it to sell, I just don't have an exit.
Because
Yeah,
off-
so,
offsite
sorry, Barney,
improvement-
so, yeah, I mean,
I mean, if you move that pole, everybody's gonna stick their nose out my place, get clipped while they're trying to go to Bank of
Yeah,
America.
because they're gonna use,
Better to stay there, actually. They're gonna hit my cars coming into Bank of America.
because it protects the vehicles pulling out. I would argue, I would argue that it's protecting the vehicles pulling out of Bank of America, where you have gazillions of trips a day. And what we're trying to do here is jam you up on, what, 10, 20 trips a day?
I'd like the pole to be moved too, but I just don't understand why.
I wouldn't get started on this argument, because there's a lot of things we can bring up about what is wrong with this plan in terms of traffic, so I wouldn't even get started. I think, Barney, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you have the authority to ask for road improvements across the frontage of the property. And that's why you're being asked to do it, and the Bank of America wasn't asked to do it, because it wasn't across the frontage of their property, but it's across the frontage of yours.
That sounds like apples and oranges to me.
Well-
Roxanne, what?
Roxanne Hemphill, 605 Park Avenue. I'll just speak to coming in and out of there, because I am a Bank of America customer. When I come into there from the light from Arby's, people make a way wide turn. I can't get in. They're too wide coming out to get in, to go. The whole thing is a total nightmare. It's very unfortunate, but it's a total nightmare. Somebody's gonna get hit there. I can't see because of that pole, so I have to inch myself out, and when I do, I am so close, I'm afraid somebody's gonna cut into me. It's really unfortunate, but it's not done right. I'm sorry, it's just not. I mean, a common sense person knows, because I don't go into Bank of America that way. I come in off of Dunkin' Donuts and go that way, because it's way too dangerous to come in the other way.
The danger is getting rear-ended.
Yep. Well, and hit in the front, coming out, yeah.
So,
This project is helping that because they're putting the building back, and the only other obstacle is that pole.
Right, but that pole, I'm sorry, the way that people drive around here, I know the project is gonna be moved back. But the people coming out don't give you enough room to come in. So you need to widen that. If you could widen that, that would be awesome. That's just-
It sounds like the original situation wasn't managed properly
it wasn't thought out right.
when Bank of America was allowed
Yeah,
to do their design.
Can I go back to ask my question again? Did you come up with an alternative, what it would look like? Okay. So you're saying it's a 10-foot wide lane?
It's existing street curb line.
It would be 10-foot wide if it was a decel or XL. And is that a recommended width on a road, a major collector road going that?
Leaves you 12-foot lane out.
Recommended 12 foot, but you can go down to 10?
No, it leaves you 12-foot travel lane, but a decel lane can go down to 10 foot.
Okay, let me ask you
Because
a
it's a
question.
low-speed roadway to begin with.
It's a major collector.
Yeah, but the speed through there is not,
Anybody know what the speed is? Speed limit?
once
Is it
town.
40 or 30?
30, 35.
It's 30, I think.
It's 30.
I think it's 30.
I think it's 30. If I can ask you a question, I'm not as familiar as Jennifer is as far as these deceleration lanes and all this other good stuff. But if I were to make a right-hand turn with the plan that you have now, with the pole there, would I be able to turn into that deceleration lane? Or is there a lane there, or do I need to sort of venture out into the main lane?
No, you would be not having to go out into the main lane. We're slightly offset of the decel lane, but it does provide a more continuous path for the decel lane on next, or the turn lane, not decel lane, excuse me.
With the pole?
Next
With the-
to Bank of America.
There's the pole,
You
so you
told
pull
me
out.
earlier when I asked the same question that you'd be pulling out into the traveling
Okay, so
lane.
here's the main
You
lane.
said that
Yeah.
turning radius
Yeah,
wasn't,
there's the main line.
No, I haven't said
when
that.
you said it.
Well,
So
especially
you're essentially
out.
pulling out into
Pulling
traffic,
out, making a right turn.
Which
Even if you're
people have been
pulling
doing for
over
how many
and then
years?
going straight all the way to the intersection, it's gonna get tight.
How many years
I
have you
think
been doing?
that's a question.
It's gonna get tight. In other words, people are gonna move into the travel lane.
Right, the argument is to move it back here,
Yeah.
so now you make that continuous.
Yeah.
Barney, how many years has this property been here? How many years has this problem existed?
Chris, I don't have those answers.
50
It's been a
years?
long time, sure.
How long's that building been there, sir? Over 100?
Yeah, it's, wow.
How long's that pole been there?
There's no more traffic.
But the difference is,
The pole's only been there like 10 or 12 years, I don't know.
yeah,
So,
but
How many more
the
trips
difference
are you adding to
is,
this?
the difference is that
More.
there's a lot more traffic
12,
in Mount Airy
12,
than there
12
used to
parking
be.
spots.
So that's
I don't think so. I think they said 48.
So,
How many trips
all
are they
right,
adding with this project?
all right. So we,
That's it?
well, you should probably just,
It's 48. 48, 45. 47 trips a day in and out of this building.
okay,
Not 8. 8 is how many parking spaces?
37 trips?
47.
47 trips a day, okay.
It's not.
It's been there for the
Yeah, but
last
how many
8 to
trips?
12 years.
How many trips was it before? I mean, what's the difference?
All right.
Dr. O'Brien?
How many accidents have occurred at that intersection? Is there a way to research that? I know it's not a state highway anymore. I mean, to give you sort of a qualitative understanding of how many, I have an accident every 6-7 days right around where I live. But on a road that size, how many happen to start with?
Most of the accidents that I've seen there are at the light.
I'm sorry.
They're at the light.
Okay, so they're not.
Yeah, I don't normally see, no, I mean, I'm not an expert on it, but I just was, like 2 weeks ago, there was a bad accident, it was under the light.
But like state highway maintains the statistics for their roads, I don't, do they maintain them for smaller roads?
The police department would have that information.
I mean, would that influence maybe a qualitative judgment on whether you should accept some of these shortcomings? That's,
I also think part of the problem is if we don't pass this tonight, then the project may not get funded and may go away. And then the situation sits there and never gets rectified. So are we happy with that?
What? Oh, of course not. And it's not appropriate to saddle Chris with the entire responsibility
Right.
of it, if indeed it is necessary to rectify. I'm not convinced that it is, that it's a significant enough problem. But if it was, there should have been foresight years ago to have done something about it, instead of kicking the can down the road. That's not acceptable.
And we're jamming somebody up, once again, we're jamming somebody up at final approval.
We do that
All the
every
time, money, investment, and now we're at final approval and we're jamming them up.
No, it
Well,
was
actually,
approved
It was
that
approved
way a
with
concept
that in the
plan.
plan.
What's been brought up today
We're
is
not-
that it's more
We're not,
expensive.
I yield that
cha-
point.
we're not changing it.
Yeah,
Okay,
we're not
We're not
jamming
adding
anybody
that.
up, this is what
Okay.
was presented and approved.
good point.
I
Is
think that
it,
if the town is as interested as you are, that the council might be willing to put some money towards it. I would be what I'd be in favor of. But you seem, you're adamantly pushing us to pass this without doing anything with the pool, but yet you're sitting there saying the town council is not gonna be interested enough in this project to consider,
My-
you know.
My opinion as a
Should be.
councilman is that for each project that comes up, if there are exceptions and the developer of the project tries to push the exceptions onto the council's probably not gonna look favorably then.
Right, but this is obviously an unusual situation.
But I think every situation will be,
I don't know.
Special.
I agree with you that this is a wonderful project, but you as a council person, but also a member of this commission, are sitting here being extremely adamant and trying to change everybody's mind, but not to get it funded, but to just let it slide, even though it may create, you know, a danger and a difficult situation. So, you know, you seem to understand that this is a unique project. It's very unique. It's you know, it's not gonna set some precedent because it's such a unique project. I mean, and it's a pole, it's a utility pole. It's not like, oh, there's gonna be all this extra traffic created and we need them to widen the road or something like your typical huge development that gets built. This is a very unique situation. And I think that we should, at a minimum, pass it with some type of condition that we can discuss, but one of which should be that this should be referred, however things come before the council for, you know, money to be requested, or the Economic Development Commission, you know? I mean, this is exactly
Would you-
what we wanna see happen.
would you pass it, go ahead and pass it with a contingency that you ask the council to fund it? If the and for the record, I'll recuse myself for that discussion, I have to, but
I would.
would you pass it with the contingency, we'll ask the council for funding, try to convince them to funding? If they don't fund it, the project still goes through.
But see, the council knows they don't have to fund it, because it'll
I,
just.
I would go to Economic
But-
Development
what-
Commission as well as the
You
council.
know what I'm saying? But also, we don't know
I'm
how
good
much
vote.
money, how much are these folks willing to put forward, how much are we looking for
Now
from the
you
council?
wanna talk
All right,
about
all right.
Chris.
Be in front of our discussion.
I'd rather,
okay.
I do not want it pushed through, I want it resolved. So don't push it through for this, I'm not gonna take partial. I'm not gonna do anything without a partial. I want everybody to be on board, or come to a patty meeting, so I know what I'm doing, financial wise, budget wise, time frame. I need to know.
The plan before them is with the poll. So they are, what I'm understanding from Leslie,
Well, if that's the only way we can go, is I move the poll, then that's what I need to know. I mean, if that's it, then I need to know, I have to rework my.
So-
Consistent with what Mr. Foreman is saying is, I think what we're suggesting is, one, approve the site plan, provided all town, county, staff, et cetera, comments have been resolved. And two, with a recommendation, and if for some reason it proves not financially feasible to deal with this pole, then the applicant's going to have to come back to the planning commission with a solution for it. Second is that I would suggest,
That's the motion.
I would suggest that the planning commission, I would ask that they, I can't suggest, I would ask that the planning commission vote on a motion recommending that the town council consider financially participating in the relocation of the Verizon, either with hard or offsetting it with town fees. I mean, so it becomes cost, it could become cost neutral without dollars having to be coming out of the town pocket to pay for it, but, it could, you know, I mean, the developer, the owner is looking
That's
at
true.
a budget.
It's a creative
Well,
way to do it.
if the budget is X dollars for fees, and those are relieved against X dollars for a Verizon relocation, his budget then balances out.
Someone second that motion?
Anybody write that down?
Oh, well, I just asked staff to.
Yeah,
I
We have
suggest
point-
we set up a utility pole
Nicely
removal
done.
fund for any project that gets redeveloped along East Ridgeville Boulevard.
yep,
I mean, I'm ready to make that motion.
yeah, I am too.
I'll make,
I'm ready to approve it.
The whole thing, Chris, I'm gonna be honest with you, no, I do not have the whole thing. I have the conditions,
We can take
Go
it by
ahead.
step.
okay.
Is,
Ron,
go ahead and approximate it, because,
Approve the motion that staff has recommended
Yeah.
in their staff report, which is an approval of the site plan resolving town and county staff comments.
And then it would be with the condition that the planning commission recommends.
That would be a second motion.
no,
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 a
no.
second
Don't
motion.
The
make that
condition, it was just including that the foremans
Oh.
could
Give 'em a-
Okay,
come back,
They can do that.
Yeah.
There's no
Yeah.
condition.
That doesn't need to be in the
Yeah,
motion.
no
They
condition.
they can do that.
so
by right.
basically, it's
Just
just,
say just approve
it's
the
really
plan.
just approved as it
Yes.
is because the
Here's the
pole
amended site
removal.
With the town
Yeah.
and county
right.
comments.
So your
addressed.
second part wasn't a motion, it was a
It's a
suggestion.
second-
It's a
Yes.
separate, it's a
Leslie,
separate.
you want to take a
Request
run
for
at
a
this?
second
Yeah.
motion.
Okay.
Where's the thing? Okay, I would like to make a motion that the commission approve the plan, approve Chris Foreman's, what is it, site plan
For 7 East Ridge, real quick.
for 7 East Ridgeville Road as presented, as long as all county and agency requirements are met.
With the conditions in your staff report, and approve with the copper penny.
With the conditions in the staff report regarding the copper penny roof coloring and all final and county agency comments addressed.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Motion made by Leslie and seconded by Judy. All those in favor, let me know by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, all opposed?
Just a 5-minute break.
Okay, sure, sure. Nicely done. It's just not appropriate that this gentleman takes on that responsibility by himself. Yes,
So what I would ask is there be a second motion.
I think there should be as well. Let's go ahead and declare our intent.
That you recommend,
Yep,
a motion where you recommend to the town council that they financially assist in the relocation of the pole
I'll make that
for
motion.
Verizon.
I'll go ahead and make that motion because there's enough of a quorum here.
And Chris
That-
has to recuse.
Yeah, that we also make a recommendation to the town council, okay, that there is, relief is provided through some means, and that we search all possible ways, so that in the end, it's cost neutral to Mr. Foreman, you know, for this remediation. All right. That sufficient? Does that cover it? Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. I made the motion and it's seconded by Judy. All those in favor, let me know by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, like sign? All right. Yes.
We don't have to do anything separate on the
Okay.
sewer allocation thing, do we?
No, I actually,
Yes, you do.
We do? Okay,
Yes, you do,
that's what I was,
right.
I thought,
Hold on. I'm all about the poll right now, hold on. I apologize.
do we need to do anything else? Do we need to
We
do
have to
anything about the
approve.
water, or the
Yeah.
the water ordinance? Okay,
Yes, that was in my recommendation.
All right.
I apologize.
all right,
I got off.
let's pull out the water ordinance.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, ma'am.
Could you remind us of how we
The prioritization,
develop the prioritization, what the prioritization percentages is?
The category is that this is under the commercial expansion.
I don't remember the percentages.
You know, Barney, do you have that on you?
What the percentages?
That, Barney, you have like a
Downtown zone was
spreadsheet?
Is this downtown?
Yeah,
No.
it's,
What's this called?
Commercial something.
Barney has the
this is like
spreadsheet.
East Ridgeville Commercial Corridor, but I don't know that it's a specific area of
And
itself.
Jennifer, thank you, we'll include that,
I put it under the category of redevelopment and revitalization, which is a category under the water.
and that's a good point, we'll be sure to
Water category.
include
And
that.
there were,
I think it was it 2,500
I mean, that is one of the priority areas.
I think so.
out of 20,000?
Yeah, there was definitely water
So it
reserved
was,
just for that.
It's about 12.5% or
For
something
that
like that.
property?
No, there was the new water
For the
ordinance.
category.
Yeah.
Rather than have, what could have happened was somebody could have come in with a townhouse development and take it
No,
all
no,
of
she
the water
knows.
and that would
She's
have been
just
it.
trying to figure out where the
yeah.
percentages
Oh,
went.
which, sorry, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, the majority was in our priority areas, which is typically the downtown area, but this would fall into like other commercial expansion and redevelopment, and Barney has that spreadsheet. But Jennifer, thank you for asking that, because as we go forward and have another proposal, we'll be sure to attach that sheet. So, thank you.
Okay,
So you're telling us then that it is one of our priority areas?
No, it's not.
Oh, it's not.
It would fall under commercial. Barney, you looking for that?
It's in the
Priority, not
category,
the most, but.
Commercial,
it's in a category that's water
Revitalization.
allocated.
it has more than sufficient allocation for it.
But Barney's gonna-
We think Barney's going to confirm.
That's
Yeah,
sufficient.
there's definitely more than sufficient. I just gotta-
That's enough, but are we not still supposed to look at the percentage of how we're allocating?
In
Well,
any,
if
Yeah,
it's,
in that redevelopment and revitalization, like Ron had mentioned, again, there's like 10 or 12.5% or something
That's
like
right.
that.
It is,
I
there's a
believe it's
category.
2,500
Yeah.
gallons per day where they're only using a
430.
small
Okay,
portion
okay.
of that.
Yeah,
That's
there
what
was
I
that.
And this is
There's more than enough
433.
in that
So it
category.
fits in
It's
to
a redevelopment
redevelopment and
and
revitalization,
revitalization
and in that category, you've already allocated a certain number of
right,
gallons per day, and
Yes.
there's enough there for this.
and this is
project.
15% of that,
This is 430.
It's like 2,500.
Okay.
or 20% of it. Yeah,
That's what I needed to know.
less. Yeah.
So Heather, could you provide something like that, a little paragraph like that?
absolutely.
Mhm.
Yeah, it was our first one, so that's a really good point of what we need to provide going forward,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
thank you.
All right, so how should we propose this motion in terms of the water and sewer allocation?
I would ask Leslie to amend her original motion,
Okay,
to include, to just basically read off of the staff report.
Yep, no, I have it. I even have mine.
okay.
I really have it on that page. You're talking about, so you want me to amend and, okay. I motion to amend the prior approval of the Foreman site plan to include the water and sewer permit application for the project. And we've already approved the final site plan for the redevelopment of 7 East Ridgeville Boulevard, including the following conditions: the copper penny rather than slate gray roof, and all final town and county agency comments must be addressed. Thank you very much.
Say much better than my first.
Is there a second for the amendment?
I'll second.
All right. Motion has been made to amend the original motion. All those in favor, let me know by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, like sign. Okay. I'm going to ask us to jump back briefly to the discussion on Century Business Center. And the reason I want us to do that is because we left something out. We got so distracted by the retaining wall and so forth. We missed an opportunity to reinforce a very important point. Okay, and we need to, it needs to be on the public record, that because this project in a way starts to contribute to the progressive development of that area, that very shortly we're going to be encountering the situation that staff has already anticipated, and that is the need for an expansion fund.
Right.
Okay? We've had a little bit of framing of this. I think it's time to fill in a bit more. Barney, could you overlay that for us and start to sketch that out with a little more detail?
Sure.
Okay.
I didn't prepare something so you have it in front of you.
That's all right, that's all right.
Sorry, are the applicants here or they've left?
They have left.
Well, that's all right. We'll make sure we bring them up to speed, but I mean, this is not new news to them.
As I understand, if I can clarify, that's a desire and a program that the town is hoping to move forward with, proposing, but because this project has an approval, it would not be subject to that at this point in time, at least phase one. Phase two potentially could be, but I mean, it was not a condition. There isn't anything in place at this point in time. There's no proposal in front of the town council. It hasn't been presented. There's no second time discussion, any of that.
True.
I mean, I don't know how you could legally.
Unless there's pushback
I
from the
guess
council.
well, really, the question is, what's the legal authority? Where does the legal authority to do this come from?
Bill, if I could address that.
Go ahead.
The Planning Commission has the authority to address off-site improvements. That's what this is basically a part of. This has happened already several times without a resolution. We're trying to go through a more formal approach so that every project moving forward will see that the structure's already in place. But as far as the off-site improvement, it's similar to Center Street Professional Center, the Cancer Care Center went in on Center Street.
Yep.
We did a Center Street Improvement Fund. And with that, they basically you take the amount of improvements along Center Street, which were improvements here at Main Street and connecting the two roads, both ends of Center Street, which is about 900 feet of road that's missing. And so you take that total amount and then you divide it among all the properties that are potential redevelopment or development. There's some vacant properties and there's some redevelopment properties. And they come up with a fair share for each property to pay into that. When they did that, they came up with a certain dollar amount that Center Street would pay into. They did that. We have a fund set up for it. The second project was St. Andrew's Church. They also paid into that fund. Now we're on the other side of 27 with very similar. It's basically the extension of Center Street going the other direction to tie into Century Drive. That would help relieve Twin Arch Road, which is already failing intersection. And then there's also an added lane on Twin Arch Road that we see with ultimate build out that both of those would is the connection to Center Street and the extended lane on Twin Arch Road. So we had our consultant provide an estimate of what those improvements are. Then they took all the vacant lands and all the development properties that are subject to development, and they did it per a trip basis, and they took the total amount divided by the total number of trips when you add them all together, and they came up with a per trip price of $245 per trip, and then you multiply that per the number of trips that development puts out there. And now this is a site plan approval, but this has nothing to do with site plan approval. This is something that goes with your public works agreement, which is not, that's the next step for them. And that's how we would calculate that offsite improvement.
And I'm
Was this plan in place was this plan in place and the applicants notified when they began their development process?
What I might suggest is there was a plan in place for what's now called Phase 2 that was already approved. That you might consider to be grandfathered. I guess we would address that when that time comes. But this plan was not in place, when there was a plan for the front half of the property. Now they're building out the second half.
So when they came with their plans and said, here's what we're doing, did we say, okay, great, we understand what you're doing. By the way, it'll be $245 per trip. Did we tell them that right at the table at the beginning of the project?
We didn't have that number at that time. In fact, before.
So I'm sorry, Bernie, I don't mean to cut you off.
On the
It's either
same
yes or,
side-
it's either a yes or
No, it's not a yes or no question.
Okay.
When you go to the other side of the street, there's actually a project ahead of them that started paying into doing a roadway improvements because we didn't have anything structured yet. The Goddard School did pay for traffic counts on Twin Arch Road. That's because we didn't have anything structured. We did already give them a cost that they had to put out for offsite improvement.
So here's the
We're
process.
carrying on, and now, but we want to find out a fair avenue of doing it, and this was the avenue, and I mean, that's where we're at.
Total trips per day or?
It's daily trips,
Yes.
not peak hour trips, daily trips.
So what's the extra cost here?
The extra cost,
32,000.
32,500, was it?
It was noted in
I have-
your
I have it right
comments
here.
to them, Barney.
Barney, this money would go to improve Twin Arch and 27. Is 27 a state road?
No,
think he was
this
talking about
money would
Century
not go to
going
state,
through.
the state road. This would only go to Twin Arch, Century Drive Extended, and Center Street Extended. It does not do anything
It's to
for
do with
the
the
state
traffic.
road.
Well, but this project doesn't affect Center Street.
No, but in order to
pod is
relieve the
connected.
traffic, once everything builds out, you already have a failing intersection at Twin Arch. To relieve that traffic, we already
I'm
proved
sorry,
that
failing intersection at Twin Arch
Twin Arch
and
and 27.
coming from the Weiss, going up to 27.
is 27 a state road?
Yeah, but it's Twin Arch, that we're not concerned with
saying.
27, we're concerned with Twin Arch. Twin Arch
And-
is a lane that needs to be extended, added, and that is not gonna relieve all the traffic. So what's in our master plan is the extension of Century Drive that will connect to Center Street. And those improvements are what are calculated, but nothing to do with the 27 at all.
I'm very puzzled, Chris. You're saying that the town would not pay for the utility pole to be removed because that's the cost of the applicant, but yet here you seem to not be interested in the applicants having to pay towards the extra traffic that they're creating. Which as Barney pointed out, is something that the planning commission can do. I mean, people, developers and owners, they pay costs when they develop.
So everywhere we turn, you're right, I'm giving mixed signals. The bottom line
Yes,
to my
you are.
signals are everywhere we turn, we're making it more and more difficult for people to do business in town. We're,
You know we have a failing intersection at Twin Arch
I
and
don't
27.
disagree. You asked me the question, and the question is everywhere we turn,
Right.
I agree.
And you're right, you're not
I
being-
agree.
you're not being
I agree with your points. I agree with your points. Everywhere we turn, we're throwing more and more fees and more obstacles in the way of people who want to do business and economic development.
This
And
is a standard procedure for all local jurisdictions in the state, and the alternative is the next guy in, who has more than 50 trips, does all of it.
Right,
So
like
this is a
we're talking
better-
about the pole,
At
and
least
Bank of
this
America
is-
not having to pay for
This
the
is
pole.
This is a
tricky.
better
Go ahead, Ron.
alternative.
My point is, one, we're underneath the APFO threshold as was in the staff report. We can all debate on whether intersections are failing. Route 27 meets the state's criteria at D. It may not meet the town's criteria of what they would like it to be. But more to the point, to spring an off-site improvement or a betterment fund on a development without there having been a full and public hearing in the town that we're going to establish a betterment fund and that it be established by the town council. You can't just sort of pick it out of the air, I don't think.
No,
it's
Ron-
fair to pick
sorry,
it out of the air.
Barney's right, Ron, Barney is correct, that the planning commission has the authority under the code, and the council doesn't weigh in on that, so Barney's correct.
Didn't you say that you sent it in a comment?
Yeah, it
That
was
they
in
were
the
informed?
original, it was in the concept plan staff report.
Okay.
And,
So we discussed it.
mhm.
It was aired when we
Right,
And
first approved.
this will be vetted through the town council to establish the fund in a public process and by an adopted resolution. So that discussion
Right.
will take place. Where it will impact this property is by execution of the public works agreement,
Right.
which the town council
Right.
will be the approving agency.
so we don't really need to be doing this now, because it's gonna be done through that.
I just simply wanted it to be on the record.
Okay.
I wanted this to go, because this is another step that's being taken.
Okay. Well, I think it was in their staff report, and we
It
already
was in the
discussed it, so
concept plan.
it's
And
not
I-
really something we need to even
Yep.
decide.
But in the future, for future projects, is this something that we would typically bring up in the concept stage?
Mhm.
So we do
And-
need to talk about it, so we know what we're
Right.
doing the next time.
Right,
Right, 'cause-
it's definitely valuable to.
Because apparently we
So
brought it
it's
up.
something,
yeah.
it's something we should be doing
Right.
for
Right,
all
every
concepts.
time.
Consistently.
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
I would suggest that you need to put it out there, not hide it, but put it out there publicly, so that people can make a decision whether they can invest
There's
in
no
in
attempt to hide
development
it.
there.
No
I mean,
attempt, no desire
the
to.
owner was, I could tell you, very upset to have heard and saw the comment on it. It was like so I think that it needs to be known up front. that-
When you make an application, you should be hey, I'm beginning the process. The town should hand you a sheet of paper that says, okay, you're beginning the process in this area. Here is the process. and here are the
I'm not
potential fees."
disputing, I've been involved in setting up a lot of betterment districts
Well, and that's
in my days as a
exactly what
traffic
we're trying to
engineer, but
achieve,
I don't
Councilman.
wanna.
Understood, but it didn't happen at the beginning of this program.
No, because actually when we were doing site plan review or concept plan review, we had the information, that there was a failing intersection. So, and we're charged with responding to that,
Right.
and
But
therefore came to comment.
right, but we discovered the failing intersection after the process began. Normal process, the process begins, we start to do investigations, okay, the intersection's failing.
No, we knew it at
No, we knew it
Cottersville,
before.
because they're the ones that
Yeah.
showed that it was a
Yeah.
failing
Before.
intersection.
Okay.
We knew it before, which was also part of the motivation for the Highway 27 corridor study, because we knew that we were already at a breaking point. And just with the elements that were already in place, much less significant new development, we had an issue. So we needed to better understand it. That's why we're doing that project, that study. Okay, are we ready for lot 32? Archbusiness.
Okay, this is an amended site plan for Lot 32, Twin Arch Business Park, and that's in Section 3 of the Twin Arch Business Park. The previous owner of the subject lot, owned by GFG Enterprises, received final site plan approval in 2008 to construct a flex warehouse space building, but was unfortunately not able to execute the building of the site. Staff had worked with the previous owner in 2010 to successfully obtain an extension of the site plan expiration from the Planning Commission, and again in early 2012 to discuss the need for a possible additional extension since the project construction was still not able to move forward. Givney Holdings LLC owns both of the adjoining lots to the east and west and purchased the subject lot in 2013. The applicant approached the town to pursue developing the vacant lot soon after purchase to facilitate an additional parking and vehicle storage area in conjunction with the business operation on lot 32. That's okay. It's the plans and the microphone conflict. We all do it. And on lot 31, we do know that as Mount Airy Collision Center. The intent of the applicant intends to develop the lot in a similar manner as the approved site plan. Given the amount of lapse in the site plan approval, staff determined that the plan would need to undergo all agency reviews to ensure compliance to current development standards and regulations, but would extend the courtesy of allowing the original site plan to be amended. Didn't work out as well as we had hoped to allow some, conveniences, but we tried. The applicant is proposing to utilize the subject lot for additional parking by employees of the Mount Airy Collision Center, as well as a staging area for vehicles in need of repair. The amendments to the approved site plan are minor in nature and are described below. The rear portion of the lot will be sectioned off with chain link fencing and green vertical slats to provide a secure area for vehicle storage. The amended plan also defines 2 stages of development. The improvements associated with the various stages of the site plan development are delineated on sheet 2 of 9 of the site plan package. The approved architectural elevations will be abandoned with the amendment of this plan. The elevations provided on sheet 9 of 9 will be marked with an X prior to the building construction stage. The owner and applicant will submit new architectural elevations for review and approval. And that's simply because Mr. Gibney, he's not certain what he wants the building to look like. He may want it to mirror the auto collision business, or he may just have a different business venture. So we don't want to lock him into that right now as it's unknown. Well, the lot will be configured in the same manner as the approved plan. The common access easement between lots 31 and 32 will be utilized for vehicular access to the site and parking area. Parking will be limited to the west and south portions of the property, with no changes proposed to the approved loading areas. There are no changes to the landscaping plan other than the schedule when the planting units will be installed. Landscaping along the road frontage will be installed during the first phase of development, and the remainder of the units will be installed at such time as the building is constructed. The approved site lighting will be installed as part of the second phase of the site development, but will conform to the approved lighting plan. The amended plan was distributed to the Carroll County Development Review for stormwater management and was subject to a full agency review to include the stormwater. The previously approved stormwater management plan continues to comply with Carroll County Code, and therefore no changes were required. You had in your packets a letter from Cass Engineering on behalf of the applicant with regard to an impasse between a comment that staff was requiring to be addressed with regard to paving of the rear storage yard. And as previously stated, the amended plan proposes that the rear portion of the parking lot be sectioned off for a storage yard. Staff supports the separation and the use of this area for this purpose, but is requiring that the entire parking area be paved. The applicant disagrees with staff's interpretation that this area is paved and will be addressing the Planning Commission during this meeting as to the request to permit the use of a gravel surface in the temporary storage yard. A letter from the project engineer has been included with the site plan package for your review. Staff respectfully recommends denial of the allowance of this gravel surface. The storage yard will serve as a staging area for vehicles that may have compromised containment systems that have the potential to cause automotive fluids to seep into the ground. Staff recommends that the storage yard be paved to allow the stormwater management system to capture any potential pollutants. In consideration of the applicant's desire not to pave, staff suggests that the top surface of the entire parking lot, including the storage area, could be postponed until after the building is completed or in phase 2. Staff recommends approval of the amended plan for Lot 32 Twin Arch Business Park as submitted with the following conditions. The architectural elevations shown on sheet 9 are no longer an approved condition of the site plan approval and shall be delineated accordingly. A note shall be added stating that revised architectural elevations are required to be submitted for review and approval by the Planning Commission prior to building construction stage of the site development. And the second condition, of course, that all town and county agency comments are addressed. And we do have a representative for the applicant here with us from Cass Engineering.
Thank you.
Who's been waiting patiently?
Well, I'm an engineering nerd, so I enjoyed listening to some of
And he's honest.
So, for the record, Kurt Schreffler with Cass Engineering, we prepared the plan. Thank you, Heather, for your presentation. I think Heather, covered everything pretty well. There virtually no changes to the previous plan. We're just phasing the construction to put the parking lot in now. And the building will be built at a later date as economic conditions warrant. So really the only issue I have to discuss is the outdoor storage area, the back portion of the parking lot, which we plan to fence, and we would like that to remain gravel until such time as we build the building. And we're really just looking for a fair and equitable decision on your part regarding that. I understand staff's concern about leakage on the surface, but the reality of it is when a car is in an accident, if brake lines or coolant lines or some other system is damaged and fluids leak, they leak at the scene of the accident. And anything that doesn't leak at the scene of the accident leaks on the way to the shop when that car is yanked up on a tow truck and pulled away. And I've visited Mr. Gibney's site, and I've visited Twin Ridge Collision Center, and those parking lots are some of the cleanest parking lots in town. The parking lots where there's a lot of leakage are actually the parking lots that are used heavily by running cars. The 7-Elevens and the highs and shopping centers that have hundreds and hundreds of cars coming in and out every day. It's not the auto repair places. So we don't think that concern is justified. There's a great many gravel outdoor storage lots areas in the town. Some in Twin Arch Industrial Park, some in the Twin Ridge Industrial Park that have been approved by the Planning Commission before. So we're not asking for anything that it's not been done before. It's permitted by the ordinance. Long term, when the building is built, we need an area on this site to stage excavation and construction for that new building. And ideally, that would be this gravel area and not an asphalt area that will get torn up and damaged during future construction. So we don't think it's an unreasonable request. And we would ask that you approve the plan with the outdoor storage area as a gravel surface.
Sir, could I ask you, the proposed area where gravel's going to go, is it going to be used more than?
Behind you.
Is it right? Is it going to be used more than twice per month?
Yeah, we use more than twice per month.
So if you just bear with me. So y'all are claiming exemption based on 112-7F. 112-7F. All required parking areas, all access drives shall be paved with concrete, blah, 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 blah. Planning Commission may permit a gravel surface in accordance with town and mountain area design standard if the applicant can satisfy the commission the existing of one or more of the following: that the proposed gravel parking area will be used no more.
This is not a parking area. This is an outdoor storage lot. It's different.
Well, then no area will, okay, so first of all, the first problem we have is if it's going to be used more than twice per month, the code specifically, 7F doesn't apply. Now, let me go to 11245 and read the rest of what y'all didn't include, warehousing and storage. So 11245B1, warehousing and storage. Indoor and outdoor storage of goods and materials, including warehousing, pole yards, building material storage, trucking storage, lumber yards, farm, implementation, sales, and service. The spirit of that section clearly is goods and materials, not vehicles. So I think you lose on your 112-7 because you're going to use it more than twice per month, and then the spirit of 11245B1 is clearly goods and services, not vehicles.
Well, I would argue that you've approved this use for contractors in the town, okay? And what contractors store in their outdoor storage yard is they do store construction supplies and construction equipment. And they also store construction vehicles. They store a lot of construction vehicles. And those construction vehicles are actively being used.
If that were the case, then the town code enforcement needs to go out and visit those sites and.
Well, I don't think the town prohibits the storing of construction vehicles. You know, it says warehousing and storage, indoor and outdoor storage of goods and materials. And then it goes on to say including, okay? So it lists some examples, okay? It doesn't specifically prohibit. There's no specific prohibitions.
So I'm sorry,
Okay.
so you're saying you're not parking vehicles?
I'm saying we're storing vehicles, okay?
Yeah, they're storing
We're
vehicles.
storing vehicles.
Vehicles that are
I
going to
get a
be
car.
repaired.
I get a car,
Yeah.
a wrecked car, okay? And I can't repair it right away, okay? Because I'm waiting on insurance adjusters, okay? Or conflicting insurance companies, okay? And I need somewhere to put it, and I need somewhere secure to put it. Okay, so I'm gonna park it back here in this fenced-off gravel yard until my client has resolved his insurance issues.
But you said
or his own
park.
personal
You just said park.
I'm going to store it.
No, I'm sorry, you just said park.
Oh, okay, let me
All right.
clarify.
So,
Okay,
I'm good. That's-
if it's a wrecked vehicle, okay, and I have it towed back there, okay, am I storing it back there or am I parking it back there? If I can't move it daily because it doesn't run,
I'll fall back to what you just said,
Can
parked.
I ask you, in that section you were reading, does it, for these equipment storage areas, does it say they have to be paid? Does it say, I know we talked about parking areas have to be paid, but what about these construction equipment storage areas? Is there any requirement?
Well,
Is there a distinction with regard to parking versus storage in that?
no, there's not, but the
But it does clearly say parking areas have to be paid.
parking areas have to be paid.
Does it define parking?
Oh, man, I'm not the lawyer.
Yeah.
I'm like,
I don't
I'm
know.
like,
Okay.
I'm
You're
like
the
Kurt here,
code.
I'm an engineer. But
Is there?
I mean, my interpretation, the spirit of 11245B1, warehousing and storage, spirit is clearly goods, materials, not vehicles.
Heather, can I ask you a question about that? I forgot actually. The site plan has a condition, like all site plans do, that building permit or a zoning permit, that's what it said, has to be issued within 18 months. For this particular site, they're phasing it so that they're gonna have parking and storage, and they intend to build the building at a later date. Is there a requirement that that building permit for that building be pulled within 18 months of our approval?
No, because it's phased. Because of the nature of the phased.
Okay, so my second question to you is, is there any criteria in the zoning ordinance that would prohibit somebody constructing just parking and storage? I know in some cases, a zoning ordinance out there, maybe not areas, but a zoning ordinance might say, you can't just do parking, you have to have a building associated with it. And in this case, they do have a building associated with it, and it's on the plan, but it's not gonna be constructed yet. Is there anything in the zoning ordinance that would prevent them from doing this phasing, or any dates or time limits where the building has to be built in a certain time?
No, there's not, and that's actually one of the concerns we have with the temporary storage yard, because temporary is forever.
Yeah.
A lot of times when we have temporary, just went out of my head, the big mounds of dirt, temporary stockpile, it's there forever, and it sometimes becomes new topography, because temporary has no defined terms. It could be there for 20 years and we can't enforce it. We've run into that in Wildwood Park.
Yes.
There is now a new unexpected topography. It's a huge hill that is now seeded and stabilized.
That's the one that was being turned into a ski resort?
Absolutely, because it's temporary.
It's temporary.
So temporary is what we're concerned with.
So,
That if the building doesn't get built, this won't be a temporary storage yard, it'll just be an unpaved
we'd agreed to a timeframe, we'd agreed to, if we don't build the building within 5 years, we'll pay the storage loan.
Well, I don't know that I still think we'd have a concern with just parking without the building, but I'm glad to hear that. That's where I was heading.
Okay.
My next question, I think I forgot what it was.
I mean-
So for us, for the approval of this project right now, if you could bear with me. Are we approving this plan as are we approving phase 1 and then they come back at a later date for phase 2? Or are you approving phase 1 and 2, but
You're
what is it
approving
that
the
we're-
amendments that would allow the phasing of the plan.
Is the phasing of the plan, other than the little squares that call out, is there any notes on here that talks about?
It's on page 2 of 9, and it actually calls out for the individual sequences that would occur in each phase.
And I believe Heather has a colored version that makes the phasing a little clearer.
You know, I don't have that.
I have a colored version in my car that I'd be happy to run out and get.
Yeah, I got
If
the
you'd
black
like
and white.
me to.
The engineers seem to have gotten the colored version.
I can go upstairs and.
Yeah, Rachel, Rachel did, she made me a little jealous because I didn't have.
Is there,
Essentially, the
The
parking
building-
area and the stormwater management is all being part of phase 1, and then the building itself.
We would have to come back to you with the building, basically.
okay,
You wouldn't necessarily have to run it.
No, for architectural.
Yeah, perfect.
Right, and, or if the building changed in size or shape.
right.
And
Okay, so my last question, if we were to put a time frame that says, especially if you look at that
I like
sequence
that.
on page 2, where it says to be done at a later date, we change that to say within so many months or something like that. And they don't build the building, they don't actually do it, what is the repercussion of that?
In other words, the temporary becomes permanent.
Temporary becomes permanent and they never build the building, even though our site plan, all that really happens then is the site plan is null and void, it's no longer valid, but that doesn't help us.
Well,
Because we're still in the position.
I think what helps us is that we put a condition on if we were willing to approve gravel to begin with rather than pave. There's a condition of a timeframe.
So, okay, so.
I don't
so
know how
the-
we would.
The code, I'm sorry, the code prohibits, the staff, and I agree with staff, the code prohibits that. It clearly prohibits that. This is parking, and Kurt just mentioned parking and then changed it to storage. So he admits it's parking, has admitted on the record it's parking. That's on tape. The code tells us, since it's parking, the code specifically says if it's used more than twice per month, you can't do that. So we can't go against what's here. And he's already said parking and
Well,
storage.
And I think you could also interpret it to be that we're not going against it, we're allowing them a temporary condition for a certain time period. And after that time period has to be paid, I think.
But there's no,
which
we're
you
in the,
have-
but you got a point, sorry, you got a point in the code where we can do that, we can't.
Well, we do that on construction projects all the time when we phase construction.
Within the constructs of the code. Here we got
Sequence of
code that
construction, we
specifically,
have that all the time.
but here the code specifically says we can't do that.
I think that you have the ability, the real question is, if I have a disabled vehicle that's waiting for repairs, and I'm storing it behind a locked fenced area on a yard, okay? Is that storage, or is it parking, okay? And I think it's storage, okay? And I apologize for mixing terms, but in the heat of the battle, but, you know, I think it's within the planning board's purview to decide if that falls within the rather loose description of a storage yard in this zone. And when I look at all the storage yards around town, and there's 2 or 3 on this street, there's nothing that prevents anybody from storing vehicles in those yards, okay? None of those site plan approvals and nothing in the ordinance says that those contractors or whatever business is in there, and these uses, you know, some of these buildings have changed tenants, so it's not even the same, the original, you know, developer tenant that's in there. Nothing prevents those tenants or owners from storing vehicles in their storage yards.
Sorry.
And there's standalone storage yards that don't have any buildings associated with them.
If the vehicles are being stored, AKA parked, more than twice a month, it's got to be paved. If people are doing this as existing practice, then we have code violations. But we're not talking about code violations right here.
Can I ask you a question?
How do you
Representing
define
the
number of times per
applicant.
month?
Can you tell us why
moving.
you do not want
It just says the
Pave this
proposed
area.
gravel parking area
We
will be
don't
used
want to incur
no more than twice a
the
month,
expense.
or
Okay.
24 days per year.
And so it's
Clear.
budgetary constraints, and it's also, Mr. Gibney does want to build this building, okay? And if we build out the entire asphalt parking lot, there's really nowhere to approach the building pad with heavy equipment to do that construction in the future.
So back to my,
So we would tear up the whole back of the parking lot. Let's say we do pave it, and we're fortunate enough to get a tenant next year that wants to lease that building, so he proceeds with design and construction of that building, then we're tearing up a brand new parking lot to get our heavy equipment in there to build that new building, so.
so back to my, if we were to, just as an if, my call for this. If we were to approve with the condition that after so many months, the storage area is paved and the building permits issued, they don't do it, what's the chance, what happens?
Then we basically go into a legal action to enforce that until such time as they comply with the site plan's approval, they wouldn't be able to use the area. I mean,
But it'd be up to us to go out with code enforcement
yeah,
for
the
code
town.
enforcement.
So,
Town,
and
right.
last question, I asked this before, but I need to ask it again. Is there any concern from the town's perspective, zoning ordinances perspective, that a parking lot is sitting there without a building associated with it? That could potentially happen. If you did go through and say, all right, you have to pave this storage area in a year, and they go out and do the pavement, but the building doesn't come for 5-10 years.
So, yeah, you could, the planning commission, correct me if I'm wrong, Heather, because there's a reason why I want to go down this road with you. The planning commission can certainly approve the project in a phased manner, correct?
That is correct.
But again, the project has to be approved in a phased manner in accordance with the rules of the code. I'll tell you, if the commission decides to pass this against staff's recommendation, I'll ask the town attorney to look at it, because I don't think it's.
Okay, but I haven't had my question answered. I still need my question.
Well, yes, we could approve this
Do
in a
we
phased
have an
phased
issue
fashion.
with a parking lot sitting there on a lot without an associated building? That's my question.
So code-wise, no, there's not an issue, so you need to ask.
Well, I'm really more interested in code like you are. I want to know what the code says.
That condition exists, example is South Unlimited, they bought a lot next door and built an extra parking lot, they didn't need it by code.
So they didn't merge those two lots?
No, they didn't merge those two lots, and they didn't need it by code, but they needed it for their business, like Mr. Gibney needs his parking lot, he especially needed it, during our winter last year, if you guys recall that.
I don't disagree with you that he needs it. I'm just trying to get
Right.
at the zoning
So
requirements.
it's not a totally unique situation.
When they expand,
It's applicable.
they needed it by code.
Yeah, it was allowed in the other one.
Right, but it's still paved.
Right, but it doesn't have a building. That's.
Oh, I understand.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah.
Thank you.
So there was parking on a lot without a building, per se.
Again,
I have come across zoning ordinances that would not allow that.
Okay.
So that's-
How large is the space that we don't want paved?
It starts right at the fence, right back here. So it's really, it's about the,
From there down,
and then here in the back or in the back.
are there dimensions?
So I could
They're
get a,
probably over here.
Probably about 3%.
Give it to me.
So it's about a third of
about a
the shaded
third,
area.
Right,
So it's,
Roughly.
right. And it's fenced, the privacy fence.
So I haven't yet
Secure
found
process.
the definition of parking
It's 100
in the
by,
code. Does it,
Well-
is there,
100 by 90, 90 by 100, roughly, a little bit less.
well,
than
it matters because if it's not parking, if there's a definition of parking and a definition of storage, then then we would know if this fits into parking or storage. That's,
Right, but again.
usually there's terms
I'm
like
not-
that.
The intent, if you read the intent of where they're trying to,
With all due respect,
I wasn't talking about the gathering of parcels thing. I'm just talking about, is it parking or is it storage?
okay.
And it might not be in here, in which case you just have to kind of go by,
Okay.
what makes sense.
Right.
Final comments?
happy to answer any more questions.
Okay. Anybody have any additional questions? So Heather, just so we understand, the recommendation from staff is the approval of the amended plan
As submitted,
as submitted.
which includes the paving.
So you're saying you're conditioned upon paving as opposed to gravel?
Yeah, as represented in the submitted plan.
Okay?
We've shown pavement at Heather's request, okay?
Submitted plan
That's how
has-
she
Right,
asked
and that's
us
in all the
to
emails.
show that,
Okay.
but when we showed that at her request,
It's out of protest.
Understood, understood.
on
I
the
just,
process, so to speak.
for the record, I want to be sure that we clarify what staff's recommendation is. Their approval is for the amended plan,
As submitted.
and that's the understanding,
And
as
what we're
as
asking you
submitted.
is to make a motion to allow the storage area to be gravel, which we believe that the ordinance permits. And if you condition that, on a time frame, and frankly, I would ask for 5 years, and if that sounds like a long time, I would point out that it takes a long time to develop projects anywhere because of economic constraints. This plan was originally approved in 2008, and I think the project that was before you earlier on East Ridgeville Boulevard is a great example of why we might need 5 years to find a tenant and arrange design financing to build that building.
Right, okay. All right, good. Thank you, sir. Thank you. And then also, Heather, you said with the conditions of the architectural elevations, no longer an approved condition.
Right, and
yada,
they
yada,
would
yada.
just X those out on that page and add the note.
All right. So the recommendation for the approval of the amended plan, which was as submitted with the paving, was based upon code requirement and also consistency of the way those recommendations for paving have been applied
Right.
and required over time. Right. So all of this is fairly consistent in terms of staff position on it. So then, really, the question before us is, how do we feel about that? We're in agreement.
Can I ask one more question, Heather?
Sure.
If the applicant was to desire to revise this site plan to show gravel, would they have to come back to you with
Absolutely.
revised site plan?
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. So, I think it's fairly clear. Okay. We could do this one of several ways, but why doesn't someone simply make a motion? And let's see the degree of support we have for
All
it.
right, so I'll go ahead and move that, for the approval of amended plan Lot 32, Twin Arch Business Park, as submitted with the following conditions. The architectural elevations shown on sheet 9 are no longer in approved condition. For the site plan approval, the note shall be added
To
To
the
sti-
plan, I'm sorry.
added to the plan that the revised architectural elements are required to be submitted for review approval by the Planning Commission prior to building construction stage of the site development. Number 2, all town and county agency comments are addressed. That's my motion. And I guess in a sense, I don't agree to the waiver because the code to me is clear.
Okay. So your motion, in essence, is staff recommendation?
My motion is a staff recommendation.
Okay, is there a second to that motion?
I second it.
All right, motion has been made and seconded. Okay, any further discussion? All right, well, let's vote on that motion.
Can I just have a discussion on it?
Sure.
Sorry. I just want to reiterate that if the applicant wishes to revise the site plan to show gravel, they can resubmit the site plan with that change?
We tried to do that.
Yeah, if they don't agree with what we just passed, then they can come back.
Okay,
but-
well, we tried to do that.
And it didn't,
And staff wouldn't bring that plan before you.
Because it's not consistent with the code.
All right, any other discussion? All right, all those in favor of the motion, which is essentially the staff recommendation, let me know by saying aye. Aye. Could I see hands on this? 1, 2, 3, okay. Is there any opposition? And there is not. Okay, motion passes.
Thank you for your time.
All right, thank you. Yep, well, yep.
Okay.
Well, we had some open discussion. Okay. Jiffy Lube. This is yet a different situation.
Another amended site plan. Our town engineer is going to take the lead discussion. I just wanted to introduce this as a part of a process that typically the planning commission isn't involved in, and that's during the construction phases. And it also highlights the importance and the pivotal role of our engineering team, especially our town inspector, Rachel. And with that, I respectfully turn the floor over to Mr. Flynn.
Okay, you have two plans,
I sent Pat in there.
and I don't know if you had a chance to look at them. The second plan, I'm going to address the door first.
Yeah, good point.
Through either permit stage or through constructions, and that, they're adding a third bay to the Jiffy Lube. It's all ready, by the way, except for hashing out some details here. They did add this exterior door that was required for egress, right? And Ron Thompson's here, I think, to represent
Big
the
night.
owner here. So it was something that they had to do.
I'm sure Ron's tired of us by now.
And what's happened with this door is
You have to keep meeting like this, right?
this door had to be at an elevation to keep it all one level on the floors, all three bays. The door had to be put in where the pavement probably would have been a little bit higher, so it kind of caused a change in the paving.
can you show that up there where that door is?
Yeah, where is the door exactly? I couldn't find
I
that.
can show you where the door, and the door was added as a code requirement in the final building. Basically, it's an emergency egress door. The doors are down, vehicle fire or anything else, power out, the garage doors don't go up, staff gotta get out a certain way. So the door is, where's our building here? Oh, we're over here. Thank you. So the door is right here at this location, right on the corner. If you look on the plan, the second sheet, if you're looking at the front from Twin Arch
Oh, there it is.
Road,
Yeah.
it sits on the side, it would be the west side of the building, about a foot down.
Yeah.
And part of the issue was everything worked until they put the door in. And found out that it was 8 inches lower than the pavement.
So the door is the first thing we just want to approve because it wasn't on the site plan elevations. So I neglected to put that in my recommendation. That should have been included in that recommendation for either option. But so keep in mind, we want to approve that door because it is a change to our elevation drawing. The second thing is, if you look on this drawing here, as you come down from where that door is and kind of fall down to the north, I guess. It's roughly a 4% grade in that asphalt. But putting that door in causes them to have to change that grade, and we asked, I think it was about 2 months ago, for a revised plan. Back in August, we asked for a revised plan. We didn't receive it until last week. I don't know when it was created, but we received it last week. And that revised plan is the front sheet of this here. And it shows how they were able to regrade it, had the potential to regrade it up to 7.3% roughly max, which is still acceptable. It's about near the maximum that you want to have in the parking lot, about 8%. So it still would have worked with that. The problem is what was installed doesn't match this plan either, where we would certainly approve this here easily. I don't think that would be any issue. But what they installed is attached to your staff report, shown up there. You can see, it's kind of hard to see, it was written in red, but you can see some slopes anywhere from 8% up to 15.8% in areas. And we feel this will be a hazard for vehicles or pedestrians. If somebody parks in these parking spaces or walking in, to the front door, especially in wintertime.
Is there a pole there?
There's no poles at this time. No, that's not an issue.
Verizon is not immediately in the area.
But
There's a pole light right here. You want to put your map?
so there's concerns with the steeper slopes. And
The people that would be walking would be people parking down here or up there.
yeah, you might have some of the staff that are parked there. You have, maybe some of the customers.
Customers are
Most of the
pedestrians.
customers are gonna come in from the, the back
On the other
doors
side?
and through the bays, but
Right.
it's probably more of the staff that are gonna park there. I understand Jiffy Lube is just one part of a shopping center that's owned by somebody else, not owned by Jiffy Lube. So any hazards there may fall onto the owner, not necessarily Jiffy Lube, which is security development, is that?
That's
Right.
correct.
Yeah. So, even if Jiffy Lube said, hey, we're okay with it, it doesn't mean that the owner is okay.
But practically speaking, the only folks that are over in that area are either visiting the convenience store or they're using Jiffy Lube because it is in a corner.
I would think mostly just Jiffy Lube.
It would be, parking is so remote that the only parking there would be for Jiffy Lube. Sequence of events, about in August, we found out that there was an added door. Nobody knew that, quite frankly, the doorway sat about 8 inches below the pavement. I got called out around early October to say we have a drainage problem, Ron, and when that plan was developed there to warp the pavement around it. And you'll see that the grade percentages are rather specific as we went around to try to hold it. And then, unfortunately, the contractor, when they paved, basically held the pavement slope, rather than starting at the cut line where we had it, they held the existing parking lot slope and then dove it in near the building.
Yeah.
So I met with Barney and Rachel, and part of this is being in here because it's not a decision they can make. But there was a plan proposed, or an alternative, which is listed in your staff report, which stripes out the area adjacent to the building, still allowing for full vehicle lanes and parking lanes, so that people would not be walking within the crosshatched area. And again, the door is only emergency exit. There is no handle on the outside of the door in which to come into the building at
Just
that
an
location.
emergency.
And then put an additional stop bar in front. We marked it out on the pavement, what we thought could work for that. there's still the little orange dots on the pavement out there.
Can you show us where that stop bar would be?
The stop bar would be right here, roughly right in this location.
Right, so as you're coming across the front of the building, you would have to stop there before you try to make an abrupt turn and
Oh,
find out
okay.
there's.
And then we had marked out something about like this, I think it was, somewhere in that area,
Okay.
grades in the field, where we would hatch it out.
So your intention there is to keep the cars from being over there?
That's
Keep 'em
correct.
over
They
there?
wouldn't need to, it's wider than, this distance is wider than what
Yeah.
is required for the 24 feet, so.
Okay. All right. Barney, are you comfortable with that remediation?
Again, I think to make it safe, putting that stop bar there helps, let people see it before they make that turn. The concern more is for pedestrians. The 8% kind of coincides with like an ADA ramp of 12 to 1, that you don't want to have a parking lot more than that. So is that hatched area, I guess, enough to, prevent somebody from getting hurt?
Dr. O'Brien?
Question.
Where is 27 on this map?
27's over here.
Right here.
Right there.
Will any of that alter any of 27's
No, the
range or any of that,
No.
or does state highway need to be notified of any modifications you may need?
No, the curb line of the parking lot, nothing changes.
Okay.
The outer
And
parking lot
27's way
changes.
above it. 27's way
Closer
above
to
it.
the building.
It's
Yeah,
actually
big cut.
probably off the map, off the
Ron,
screen.
do you have exterior lighting in that area?
They have,
There's a pool light right at the top corner. See, it's
I'm
right
trying to
outside the
remember,
pool
did
light.
they put, I can't
Yeah, I see
remember
that.
if they actually put
I don't know if there
Oh,
was.
on
a
the
light, wall-mounted light or not on the building. I don't think they did. There is a little light right over the building if you walk out. I think it's probably motion activated. That would just write down for someone stepping out
At that door?
at the door. But I think,
It's an emergency light.
yeah, it's an
Right.
emergency,
Like a battery
motion
light.
activated type.
Yeah.
The parking lot has the lighting, the parking lot's lit there.
Would they entertain putting additional exterior lighting on that building, on that side of the building? If there isn't any?
They might. I never asked them to do that, to put, I'm sure putting just a typical light there, down.
Okay. All right, so,
Full cutoff,
Yeah,
standard
something
little
to
hood
light up
there
that
type light.
Mr. Chair, we recommended option 1 because.
okay, I've got two different versions here. I've got
Yeah.
one where option 1, which is the,
The one that's revised.
I should say revise on the front.
Yeah, the red revised
That's what he said.
This one.
Gotta be fair, right?
okay.
So we felt it was, that we had to recommend option 1. The concern is having too steep of a slope on the parking lot. So didn't feel, but we at least want to present the option to you if you wanted to still allow it.
And we
Can I
believe
ask-
option 2 would still meet that criteria for the parking lot.
From a process perspective, this is already done. It was done without approval?
Well, this change was done without approval, yes. Yeah, so it was a field change. And then we received, because we had to go out there, we found that,
It's
You
this
No-
is
normally-
it's concerning.
wasn't on plan.
Normally, a field change like this would be documented as an as-built. The issue being, for the pavement, I don't know about the door, but the pavement, you gotta be able to have the opportunity to, if something doesn't work, to be able to react during construction for it. The issue here was that, quite frankly, the contractor didn't quite grade it according to plan, otherwise it would have been.
Right, okay, so, but my question still was, this was done, so it's a field change and the town wasn't notified. Is that correct?
Right. It actually got changed, I mean, the door, start with the door, it all got changed back in the final review of the permit after the site plan's already approved.
Right, and this is minor, we know, but
Right.
that's disconcerting to know that, that you've got approved plans and then because a field change is necessary, the plans get ignored and the process isn't followed. I mean, that's very concerning. I understand it needed to be done.
Well,
It's, I mean, folks, but you understand that from a town's position, we're just gonna change something, it's not approved, and hope we don't get caught.
Well, and then my other concern is submitting a plan a week ago that was not reflective of what actually occurred out there, correct?
Correct. So Van Mar did provide a plan, I think it was provided to the contractor, and they didn't follow it. It is a revised plan that was not approved, but it's something that would be more acceptable than what's there now.
well, then it's fairly clear.
Barney, but, Mr. Chair, can I just ask one question? Because to what extent can an as-built deviate from an approved plan though? Because if this were to be handled by an as-built, like if the disparity between the approved plan and the as-built, it was in this condition, how does that work? Can you help me understand?
Well, I would
Like
think,
those
I would
field
think,
changes?
I would think if, you know, it went from 4% to 7% in the field.
Right.
And we felt that was, it's still acceptable.
Right,
You know, we might just ask that that be put as part of the as-built.
okay, but so
But because
you
it
would
goes
direct
beyond
it,
something that
right.
we are
Okay.
concerned with being acceptable, that's.
So it's not just a process that happens, oh, we're changing it and we're just gonna follow it with an as-built.
Right.
That the engineering department, there needs to be some town acceptance of that deviation.
Right, yes, yeah, and that, I mean, there are field changes, always happens in construction.
I
but-
completely understand
But it's
that.
gotta be acceptable to inspectors and to engineer.
Well, when
Different
Ron
way.
said that this would be handled by an as-built, that concerns me that we maybe need to clarify to a certain extent
Yep.
in pavement. Because then anybody can submit a plan that meets our codes and then just,
Do whatever they
Yeah.
and, okay, all right.
And I guess if I can bring up one more question is, you know, certainly, I mean, depending on what you decide here, certainly Jiffy Lube would like to open as quickly as soon as possible. Everything else is complete. So I didn't know if you want to consider that in your motion.
All right, point noted.
Thanks, Brian.
All right. Anyone want to take a swing at this?
I will.
Otherwise I'll do it. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm gonna recommend a motion to approve the amended site plan for Jiffy Lube Service Center, which includes the addition of an egress door and require the asphalt to be milled out and installed according to the newly submitted plans that showed slopes no greater than 7.35%.
Motion has been made and seconded. Okay, Lisa, did you get it? All right. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the proposed motion, let me know by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Like sign?
All abstain.
Okay.
I have one request. This is the issue. I don't think it's an issue of them trying to fix it. The issue they want to do is they've got an empty building, which they spent a lot of money on, and they'd like to open. Is there a way
Yeah.
that can move
Can we
forward?
amend
I don't
the-
think that they're objecting to, all right, well, we'll have the contractor come back and put it what the plan says on
Yeah,
there.
can
I
we
think
amend-
the issue for them is,
How
And
can the
Rachel's-
construction occur? What's the timing of that? If they're going to mill and they're gonna be in
How could we do
operation,
that?
explain how that can happen. Because what you're essentially gonna look for is a UNO, correct?
yeah, I guess so.
Really good.
Explain how that, just give me a sequence of events. Are they,
We're gonna see.
there's
Yeah.
7 days a
Practically
week,
speaking.
right?
They are, but that side of the building, quite frankly, if you go out and observe operations,
Okay,
out there, that side of the building is not used. It could easily be blocked off for that construction.
The
those
mechanics
park-
bring the cars into the
Oh,
bays.
yes, yes.
Yeah, they
bring
come
right
in
to
there.
the
Go
bay.
out that way.
You don't go out that
You
way.
don't even go over that
Could you
side.
put up
You don't go over
heavy-duty
that side
saw
of the building.
horses or
You can go
just
either way.
something to block even that
As long
area?
as it was blocked off, so nobody.
come
Well,
here.
a contractor
You
would
come
simply
in
because
here.
they're not gonna want anybody in their construction zone.
You
Right.
come in from back here.
Right, yeah, but there's no way that you don't go over there.
You won't, no, you won't.
So,
I think that's
If you do make an amended motion, you definitely gotta put a time limit on it. And I don't know if we can we
Well, I
put a
don't-
time limit on a UNO?
I don't
Yeah, I don't
know
know that we
that
have
the
authority.
planning commission needs to do that.
I don't
We
think
can
we-
handle that with staff and the zoning administrator.
Okay,
And issue,
all right.
and work with the county to issue a temp UNO. What I would ask that you do is reach out to your client and perhaps the contractor and find out the minimum time that they need to do this.
I think it'll all be weather dependent right now. I'm hoping we get warm weather back because of everything we got going on.
Yeah, I mean,
How do you feel?
I would say it would be spring that we would be looking for this.
I think they want to wrap it up as soon as possible and
Right,
be done.
understood.
Well,
But no, that's
They're
something
not, they're not
that
trying to delay this at all. They want to
Yeah.
be.
Barney, Rachel, and I can work with Monica and the county to satisfy some sort of temporary use
Temporary,
of
all right.
occupancy.
Thank you.
Okay?
Okay, got that one? All right, let's see
If
what
we
we
go
can,
back working on the master plan, that was a lot easier.
I know.
see what we can complete and what we can delay. Yeah, but it's not till 10:30, but I don't want to wait that long. All right, we don't have either of the county planners here,
Well,
so,
we don't, but
We're-
Andrea did want me to pass along just a few things, and I'll be quick, I promise. She wanted you to know that the public hearing, the Carroll County public hearing was held on the 5th, on their master plan, and 51 people attended, and there were 26 speakers, so there was a good turnout. Their planning commission is meeting on Monday, November 17th at 6 p.m., and it's going to be dedicated just to master plan changes and edits, and that will be in room 003 of the Reagan Room. And they're basically going to have a work session, and they have compiled a book of all the comments that were received. So they're on their way.
I'd suggest you send them a DVD of our joint session, so they'll have a good example of how to efficiently get it done.
I think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Compare it to Frederick, where people are outside in the hall still in the screen.
Okay, so let's move on to unfinished business. Appropriate committee leads, give us an efficient overview of where your subcommittee stands with regard to OPE, MXD, and the corridor study.
The Mixed Development Subcommittee will be meeting on Monday, the 17th, and then we will have an update. We have not met since the last meeting. Thank you very much.
4 p.m. Monday, right, right. Okay. OPE,
OPE, Lindy is not here, but we haven't met in a while.
Correct.
So we need to,
Set up another meeting.
we do. Yep. So,
So no update.
we are going to try to put together at least a work session, if not an abbreviated meeting in December. Okay, I would say, at the very least, our subcommittees should meet and have some progress to report.
In our
By then.
December meeting.
Yeah, otherwise, we're gonna be going in behind,
Okay.
next year, so. Corridor study?
corridor study, Barney and I sent we sent the draft to our traffic consultant, our engineering consultant firm, to just get some expertise on the draft that we proposed, just to tighten it up a little bit. We've missed our first and second deadlines,
It's
but
all right. You're busy with the master plan.
And
Busy
it's
with the
so
master plan.
important that, you know, we want to make sure our RFP is solid and we get the data. So, but we look to, Barney, have you heard anything from?
No, we're supposed to talk with somebody tomorrow.
Perfect.
And
Okay.
for that, we're supposed to have a teleconference tomorrow.
Am I included in that? Or?
Yes,
Okay,
you are.
Could you just tell me what
That
time?
meeting notice was going out next.
Okay, thank you very much. So we'll pass. Let's see. We've been scrambling. But we're continuing to try to get that to you.
Okay, well, hopefully that'll occur, but I think it probably makes sense for each of the subcommittee chairs at the December meeting, go ahead and refresh us on, you know, the main points for each of these pieces, because they all fit together. They are the remaining completion of the master plan. All right, good. We'll look forward to that. So, we've got a ordinance here.
We do, and this was, I sent out an email just explaining that this would be a late arrival, and it's, does everybody have a copy? Firstly, I wanted to thank Lisa for spending her time. She is responsible for pulling this together so Tom could approve it for legal sufficiency. So for someone who's been thrown into the zoning world very recently, she is kicking butt and taking names, so I'm very thankful to have her on my side. Basically, this ordinance, it's a formality. It reflects everything that was recommended in the adopted master plan that was adopted on November 3rd.
At 8:42.
So there's,
This follows through in the
it
final
does.
tweaks.
And what this will do, this is actually the mechanism that will cause the change in the zoning maps.
Yep.
It'll be done by way of ordinance. The town council has set a public hearing for the rezonings for January 5th at 7 p.m. here at the town council. And what we need is we need a recommendation, an official recommendation to the town council on this ordinance. And these properties reflect everything in the master plan with the addition of the Buckman property, which is going from R2 to CC. Mr. Buckman did reach out to us, and those were his desires. So staff has taken care of that.
That was the one property
It's the little
where,
property in the middle of the carnival ground.
right, he
Yeah,
wasn't
right on the edge
sure.
of the carnival grounds. And,
So I guess we all voted together to give
yeah,
him.
to give him the latitude, and that's what he chose. Okay?
So, can I ask a question?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm a little bit confused.
Okay.
You said there was gonna be a hearing
Mm-hmm.
for the rezoning?
Right.
What's the purpose of the ordinance then? Is it to,
Well, this is, the public hearing
Recommendation.
is on this ordinance.
I know, but are we premature, or are we just?
No, so the council refers, since it's a planning ordinance, it has to go through planning, so planning has 60 days to say yay or nay. If planning doesn't say yay, if planning doesn't vote in 60 days, it's a
Right.
de facto acceptance. But it
Right.
can't go to the council, by code, it can't go to the council unless planning gives a recommendation.
So then when it goes to council, that's the actual public hearing?
When this goes to the council, they have the recommendation of the planning commission that all these properties, you know, match the master plan, they meet the intent of the master plan, and they're guided by the master plan.
But since it's an ordinance, meaning a code change, by code, the council has to have a public hearing on it.
And is that the public hearing you're talking about? Because it sounded like you said something different.
No, the rezoning public hearing,
That's separate.
no, it's January
It's this,
5th,
okay.
but it's off of this. Like, so the public hearing will be on this ordinance,
It's all formality.
which is causing the zoning of these properties to be amended.
And this is just simply
Thank you.
the follow-through, the final corrections on what we already agreed to jointly with the council.
That is correct.
It's simply a formality that we have to go through. Okay. All right. Do I hear a motion?
I think you should move it.
Okay. Then I would move that we recommend to the council this proposed ordinance number 21416, okay, to revise and amend the zoning maps of the town of Mount Airy to conform with land use classifications in the newly adopted 2013 master plan. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay,
Okay.
okay. Any further discussion? Any questions, Jennifer? All right. All those in favor, let me know by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, like sign? Passes. All right. Cool. Is that enough? Did people look at their calendars in terms of December times? Or can we
Did you
just
have a
simply,
proposed date, or?
well, I think we just ran out of time to take a look at everything.
December, I was looking, and December 15th, which is a
Good one.
Monday, would be a good time, as to not,
Roughly a month?
yeah, you don't want to do it on the 22nd. That's,
Too close.
No.
Yeah.
and the first is the town council meeting. And Mr. Chair, I don't have anything that needs action at this time, so we can sort of peg it as a
All
work
right.
session
Okay, so
on
that's,
December 15th, or December 8th, if that's better. I was just thinking it might give a little bit more time for subcommittees to meet, if we do
True.
it on the 15th.
Yep.
Or if people like the Thursday meetings.
well, let's do this. Subcommittees, act like it's going to be on the 8th. At this point, let's say it could be either the 8th or the 15th.
Okay.
And, check your calendars and see what it looks like. And then we can coordinate that with Heather.
And this will be basically just a work session for our subcommittee process, Mr. Chair? Is that what you
Oh, I
envision?
know I can't do the 8th.
Okay.
Anybody else know for sure that one date's bad versus the other?
We definitely don't want to do the 10th. That's our business card exchange.
True.
15's fine.
Yeah, same for me. Mondays are one of my best days. Okay. If we're going to have that meeting then, that the only other thing, do we have a zoning administrator report? Anyone?
They are not present. They
No,
are not here.
No, they're not here.
There was a lot of paper, and I apologize.
Right. So the question, the only other thing really that's on the agenda here is election officers, which we can, it's already 10:15. Why don't we just do that in December?
Yeah.
Can we just do that?
Yep.
Yeah? Okay. Anybody got anything else? You've been stalwarts tonight. And you guys really deserve medals. I can't believe it.
Yeah, I
Sitting
know,
out there.
sitting here.
God. All right. Then if there's nothing else that anyone sees fit to bring before us, is there a motion to adjourn? Second? All those in favor? Let's do it.
Thank you.
Thank you.